And bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts that we've watched, we're so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, in the home of the brave.
This is ESPN 1025 The Game. From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne,
Robbie and Rex Road, Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman Company.
Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushes.
Awesome game 7. Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace with Chase McCabe, Willie Donick,
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 1025, 1063 The Game. We're streaming on the Game Nashville app as well. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you today. D-Mace is taking his son back to college, so he'll be back on the show on Friday. So look forward to having that. But the Titans are whittling their roster just like the rest of the NFL down to 53. And Willie, we know how this goes, that there's always some surprises. Yesterday, even though I don't know if it was a huge surprise per se, but it did come out, and the Titans did make it official that Brett Kern, the longtime punter, he was the longest tenured Titan for the team. He has been released, and so Ryan Stonehouse is now the punter for the Tennessee Titans. It was reported that Tyree Gillespie, who they had acquired via a trade, he's being cut. Adrian Colbert, Hayden Howerton, Willie Wright, Trey Swelling, all being reported as cuts, and I'm sure more will come as the day goes on. The team must be at 53 before 3 o'clock today.
So we should probably be getting some little pieces of information, I would say, throughout the day. So that's a reason to listen to us. We'll be keeping our eyes open on the Twitter sphere, etc. When these things come down, a lot of times the agent, the player gets notified and they let it out before the final roster is released. So we might have a pretty good idea. So you might have to get your predictions in pretty early, Chase. But
yep.
I do want to get a shout-out into D-Mace because his son DJ, who was an outstanding kid, great student, he's at Boston University. So Derek's heading up that way. Aaron and Evie on Thursday will be going up there too. She goes to Northeastern, which is just across the city. You can walk from one campus to the other. I'm off the hook. Mahoney and I this year are not going up there. Aaron doing the duties to get Evie back to school, but
that'll be fun.
We kind of don't want to talk about it because we're used to having her back again, and it was very emotional last year. I'm kind of wondering how the sophomore year is going to go. Aaron has said that she thinks this year could be just as tough emotionally. I'm trying not to think about it, but that's what got me last year. I was thinking, oh, yeah, it'll be fine. Just drop her off. This is just how it goes. And then I was sobbing driving back on the Mass Turnpike.
Knowing you both like I know you, I would say that's probably accurate.
Yes.
Now, my question is going to be
Hal Gill, for the record, he just dropped his daughter Izzy off. That's his oldest at Ohio State. She's playing lacrosse there, and he said he was an emotional wreck. He bawled. On the way,
and
on
I
the
mean,
drive home.
Hal's a teddy bear. So let's be honest with you. It's okay, Skillsy. But now,
it's all
what
good.
I want to know
It's
is
all
when
good.
you drop Mahoney off, is it going to be the same, or if it's going to be like, because that's your guy, that's your road dog. As
and we
Derek
will have
likes
been
to say.
through it once, right? So what's
Yeah.
the second one?
Is it going to be
then,
just as emotional, or be like, all right, we'll see you?
I think it'll be just as. The factor there is we will officially be empty nesters.
That's
at
true.
That point.
That's true. You will be. Well,
Got another couple years before we get to cross that bridge, so we will have to wait on that.
Something that I do want to start on is I hear all this speculation about Brett Kern and what's going to happen with him. And
Yes.
and I think everybody is quick to connect him to Buffalo because that's where he's from. Buffalo needs a punter. But if I'm him, I mean, he's got roots in Nashville now. Like
He's been here a while.
yeah, he's been here a while. His wife and kids are here. All go to school here. I don't know if I'm as quick to say that, oh, he's going to jump on with another team. He's had a nice turn to go somewhere else, even if it means he could jump on with a Super Bowl contender and potentially get a ring.
Well,
I don't think it's as easy as people are making it out to be.
yes, I think you're probably right. And what's interesting is it doesn't sound like it, but with the salary cap, different teams have different angles for how much they want to budget for a punter, especially a veteran punter. It's extremely important. Same thing with kicker. But sometimes teams are willing to roll the dice, and they don't leave a lot of room in their salary cap for that position. But Brett Kern's in a position that I would think – now, I would not be surprised at all. You've got three teams. The Broncos cut their punter yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We knew – remember, we were joking at camp. The last day we were at training camp, when the Colts announced that their punter was injured and out for the season, we were joking that day that the loser of the Brett Kern Stonehouse sweepstakes would probably get a call from the Colts.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts have already contacted Brett Kern. The same thing as Buffalo. It's just
I wouldn't be surprised
it's
either.
just logical, right? It's just why would you not at least call and say, hey, we need a punter, we're interested. But Brett Kern's in a position at this stage of his life, his career, that he probably doesn't have to go anywhere if he doesn't want to. And it's got to be a good deal for him,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because here's the thing. Remember, he restructured his deal in March, basically took a pay cut, and his base salary was around $2.1 million this season, but $900,000 of that is guaranteed, and that's above the league minimum. So that's a pretty good guarantee, for a guy that's been in the league as long as he has. So he's making $900,000 this year, no matter what.
Okay.
To sit at home. If I'm him, and Buffalo doesn't have a lot of cap space, I need to go look at Indies again. But if they're calling and they're not going to offer, they're going to offer league minimum or they're going to offer that or not much more than that, why would you take it?
So it's
You
basically
lose the guarantee.
So what you're saying is it's basically get paid to stay home, not move.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I think he's in a
get
really good
paid
spot.
the same to go punt, move, etc. It's like, how bad do you want to punt? I mean, you have to consider some things. The Broncos, Colts, and Bills all could have pretty good teams, right?
Yep.
If things fall right, they could all be very good. They all play the Titans, which is pretty
Sure, and look,
interesting.
if I'm wrong and he goes and he wants to try and get a ring, like, more power to him. I mean, he deserves it. He's been a great guy in the community, great for the organization. So, like, I totally wouldn't blame him at all. I just, looking at the numbers and where he's at in his career, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he just says, hey, I'm good. It's been a good run. He's a golfer. I'm going to go play golf.
That would nobody would begrudge him if that's the case. Now, let me give you a hypothetical. Because this happened with Rob Gostkowski, right?
Yep.
It happened with
He still lives here, I believe.
Gary Anderson. right? Now, Gary Anderson wasn't living here. He was fly fishing off in the hinterlands, the wilderness. But let's
Fisher
just
had to go find
say
him.
that in week X, I don't know what it, let's just say week 5, 6, 7, Brett Kern has decided that he's going to just, basically hang out. He's going to get paid. He's just going to relax. Stay in shape. Who knows? But what if something happens with Stonehouse? Either it goes horribly wrong, which we hope isn't the case, or he just gets hurt or something. It does happen. Brett Kern got hurt a couple years ago, and it was almost a disaster for the Titans, right? They suffered without him. But that would be unbelievable if Brett Kern, that could really work into the Titans' favor, in theory, right? Now, Brett Kern would have to stay in shape and be able to do it. And fortunately for the Titans, remember when the Gary Anderson thing happened, Floyd Reese, it's one of the most creative stories in the history of the team, right? Joe Neddy got hurt. They were desperate. And they allowed Gary Anderson basically just to fly in for the games. He could he'd go back home. He could do whatever he wanted during the week. They just said, basically, we need you Sunday here for the games. And it worked. And he was in good enough shape to get the job done. And he had a really solid year. And I don't know how easy that is to do as a punter, because I think a punter it's a little more of a touch, an art form, other things going on. There's the holding part of it. I just wonder where this could go. I mean, first thing he's got to decide is, do I want to punt?
Sure.
Do I want to just get back in there? I'm in shape now. I'm ready to play. I've gotten myself ready for a season. It's not going to happen with the Titans here. So do I want to take that phone call and go to another team? Because it'd be one thing if a big-time rebuilding team were calling. But it's got to be intriguing at least to say, here's a team that needs a punter that could win big.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly something to watch. Like I said.
But you're saying
it would
not
wrong.
surprise you if he just said,
yes,
I'm done for a while.
Yep.
I'm okay if it ends now.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I think unless the Titans – my prediction is unless it's the Titans, he's done.
That's your impression.
Yeah.
That's your best guess right now.
Yep.
Okay.
That's just kind of how I feel about it, And look, he's in a great situation if that's the case because –
Well, that would be a win for our community, right? Because Brett Kern has been a great part of our community for a long, long time. He's got roots here, and I'm sure he would get a lot of phone calls from people he's made contacts and networked with for the last decade or so that want him to be a part of something, whether it's a football team, a school, or some sort of post-football career, right? He's got a long way to go in his life, and he's made a lot of great contacts here.
No doubt. The offensive line is going to look different for the Tennessee Titans. They added to it yesterday. We'll discuss that, plus some interesting comments from Eddie George from our afternoon show. You'll hear that coming up next. It's Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The Sports Talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic every Saturday morning at 9.
I've got my extra large coffee.
As she talks about the big stories of the week.
Predators news, the Tennessee Titans.
And looks ahead to the weekend.
Oh, I'm so excited.
On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Kick off week 1 with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up with promo code ROB to get in on the action. Then you can turn game day into payday all season long. I really like the Titans in week 1 against the Giants. The Giants continue to have injury problems in the preseason. So that's probably the game that I'm looking at, but you take it any way you want to take it. Play your way and bet on more than just the final score. Wager on everything from touchdowns to total yards to catches. You can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't fumble your chance to get $150 in free bets. Win or lose with promo code ROB. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
With your home value up again, you are sitting on a pile of money. So don't let it sit there. Use it. Willie Donick here for my friends once again at Loan Pronto. Introducing Loan Pronto's Equity Line of Credit program. You don't have to refinance, but you can access up to 97% of your home's value. Get cash now to pay off all your credit cards or do that home improvement project. Get your down payment for a new home or stash away for a safety net. You can get $50,000, even $100,000 or more out of your home. And the payments are crazy low. Think what you could do with $100,000 right now. Loan Pronto makes unlocking your equity easy, and they can probably even waive the appraisal. Don't just let all that home equity pile up. Turn your house into an ATM machine and get the cash you need. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Are you a local up-and-coming music act looking for your big break? We might just have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. Blended Festival and Affinity Entertainment are hosting a chance for a music act like you to join the lineup for Nashville's Blended Festival, September 10th and 11th. The deadline, August 29th. The finalist announced September 1st. To submit, text I Want to Win to 615-965-8657 or check out @Affinity Nash on Instagram.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, August 26th through September 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $29.39. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Back here, Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you. D-Mace with the day off. He'll be back with us on Friday. Nick Keyser on the ones and twos. Intern Connor back there as well. All right, I have a job for both of you guys behind the glass, especially intern Connor. Keep an eye on the cut tracker.
Yeah.
That is your job for the day.
Hawkeyes.
Yeah, the Hawkeyes. Yeah, keep an eye on the cut tracker. There's also a trade tracker that we got to keep up with. Yesterday, how about this, Willie? The Jags, who I wouldn't say they have a logjam at receiver, but they did have quite a few in camp. A guy that had been a staple for them the last couple of years, Laviska Shenault, they have traded him to the Carolina Panthers. So a new target for Baker Mayfield. And
Shenault has had some. He's had some big moments.
Had some flashes.
He's
for
had
sure.
some good flashes. So we'll see how he fits with Carolina. So yeah, there's always some moves like that. I'm just noticing too. The Saints are trading defensive back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the Eagles. They had not been able to work out a contract extension for him, so they have traded him. I wonder how many more moves like that we're going to see. Of course, the Titans made a trade for a guy that may or may not have been cut by his former team, and they see a fit there. So as we speculated, they would be looking in that direction. It wouldn't surprise me totally if there's another move like that the Titans make.
Oh, I think there will be. The Chiefs have cut Josh Gordon, as he's the odd man out in Kansas City. I think he's played for about 17 teams now in his career. But so that's O.J. Howard being released in Buffalo, which I think is an interesting move. I really liked him out of Alabama, and it just hasn't quite worked out. But we'll see if he lands somewhere else. But as you mentioned, the Titans made a move. They acquired offensive lineman Dennis Daly in a trade with Carolina on Monday night. The Titans received Daly in a 7th-round selection in 2024 from Carolina in exchange for a 5th-round pick in 2024. So not giving up a whole lot. You get a pick back in a different round. But I think this is significant, not because I think Daly's going to come in and be the right tackle. I do think that's Nicholas Petit-Frere, like John Robinson has said. But what does this mean for Dylan Radins? Is Dennis Daly going to come in and be the swing tackle, that utility offensive lineman that Radins supposedly could be, but really hasn't lived up to?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm looking forward, once all this settles one way or the other, that we can take a couple of weeks off of talking about Dylan Radins. To me, he's like the most talked about guy in camp with perhaps the least amount of significance. Like everything works out the way it should, or where you hope. He won't play a big part in the season. He's clearly not ready. If he plays a big role in the season, that's probably not good news for the Titans. But that being said, I think there's still a solution to where he is a backup at guard. I see the player that they acquired as a guy that's played left side a lot, tackle and guard. He has started a game in the NFL at right tackle, so it looks like it's reasonable that he could play there. See, I don't know enough about why he started the games that he did. Was it because somebody got hurt? Like, could he have just as easily played right tackle if that's where the opportunity was? Like, capability is an important question here. It's not just where he's played. But it is interesting that most of the games, almost all of the games he started in the league, have been on the left side of the line. Doesn't mean he can't play as a backup right tackle. I hope he's a utility guy. That's what I think I see from this. And with all that, they just have to decide, is he better than Radins if they needed a backup guard? I don't see Radins as a guy I'd like at all to have to play tackle for my team. Right
I don't
now.
know if I want him to. I would like to have him play at all.
I'd love him to be a depth guy. I'm willing to give him one more year as a developmental guy behind the scenes, and if you got to play him, you got to play him. The other guy that I think is a total mystery man because he's been hurt is Jamarco Jones. I don't know where he fits into the equation because he can play guard and tackle. So if it's and help me on the name again, the guy that they
Dennis Daly.
Yeah, so we have. This is not to be confused with Dennis Kelly. You got to hope Dennis Daly is like Dennis Kelly in that he's a no-name and ends up being a fit with the blocking scheme. There's so much that has to do with what is the blocking scheme. Is it a match, the style that the Titans play compared to what he was before? Because he may well have been very ineffective before, but maybe in the Titans scheme he fits a little bit better. That's the kind of thing your scouts have to be good at. And once again, you're hoping that you don't have to use them that much. But the reality is you're gonna need some depth. But if you've got him and you've got Jones, Radins in there somewhere, and then whoever else you choose, that sounds a little bit better than it did a few weeks ago.
615-737-1025. That's our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eddie George, who, of course, is now the head coach at TSU. We announced yesterday that you're going to be able to hear TSU's football games on 94.9 The Fan starting this weekend. And also the debut of the Eddie George Show will be Monday night at 6 in Peabody, 6 o'clock here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Eddie George and Jonathan Hutton of Outkick 360. And Eddie's going to join us every Friday at 1 o'clock. But he was on yesterday with Stillman and company, and Jared asked a very interesting question when it comes to the offensive line and playing the running back position, specifically to Derrick Henry, and just getting used to the fact that there have been some big changes with the offensive line. Here's what Eddie had to say.
And when you have that many moving pieces year after year, it's tough to get a chemistry with your offensive linemen because you kind of know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how they play certain defenders, what to expect out of them week to week. So it's another learning curve that he has to take coming off of a year that he's been injured that he has to make an adjustment to. Now, if he's dominant and he continues to play well, you hardly notice it. But, in terms of pass protection, knowing what that tackle likes. Does he like to be, for his defensive ends to be chipped or getting a little help? Because I know for me and Brad Hopkins, Brad hated for me to chip, guys. He wanted them one-on-one because if I knocked him off his block and chipped him to the inside, he'll beat him to the inside, and he hated that. Mm-hmm. So it's just those little nuances and details that you have to pay attention to. And, this league is forever changing, and Derrick's made those adjustments before. I don't think it'll be a big deal moving forward.
There you go. What do you make of that comment he made, though, about the pass protection and knowing how like that tackle likes certain things and how Derrick can adjust when it comes to pass pro?
It's a great little point that Eddie's making. That's why I think, having Eddie's perspective is going to be excellent. Of course, Eddie's got a day job. He's got to worry about the Tigers, right? But, the interaction he's got with Derek is going to be a great strength for our show. So I think it's something you're going to be wanting to listen to every day. And when I say Derek, I'm talking about Derek Mason, of course. But as far as Derrick Henry and the pass protection, these are the nuances. I think knowing your personnel, knowing your team's tendencies is something that as you grow up in the league, for example, Haskins, he's got to learn these things. There are going to be things that he doesn't quite know yet that he will know over time with little nuances of how to be an effective pass protection guy. And I can see Haskins. Haskins really surprised me as a pass catcher out of the backfield, so he might find himself in that position with pass protection as a third down back. And he's got to prove that he can pick up the blitzes, and he's got to understand some of the tendencies and where that little extra move, that little extra anticipation, understanding the situation could be the difference of picking up the blitz or allowing a sack, having a dead play. So I think it's great insight by Eddie there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And speaking of great insight, I know you listened to the Ringer podcast and heard some very interesting comments in that. We'll play those for you coming up next because they do apply to Derrick Henry.
They do.
And some of the things that we're talking about.
And I'll set the table for you as you ready to hear this on the other side. You've heard me harp on this a few times, is that the national narrative, it almost doesn't matter. There's an exception here or there. And we talked about this before the season last year with the Predators. Almost nobody picked the Predators to make the playoffs last year. This year, I think what's interesting is the national narrative. Very few people are picking the Titans to win the division. I don't care if you're talking about analytics sites, people who just eyeball it and make their call, people who do gambling sites and run the simulated games. I'm not sure what that world is like, but we'll talk about one of those a little bit later today. But this one happens to be the Ringer podcast. And so when we come back, we'll let you know what they think. They're looking for unanswered questions. The number one question on the podcast was, what are we going to expect from Derrick Henry and the Titans? Because basically they've been under the radar. Nationally, nobody talks about a team that's won double-digit games the last 2 years. They've won the last two divisions. They've had 6 straight years of a winning record. And quite honestly, nobody's really expecting much from them.
Yep.
And a lot of it comes back to number 22.
We'll do that coming up next. But first, Willie, you're going to tell us about QC Kinetics.
Well, let's talk QC Kinetics. They want to keep people moving. I've been saying this a lot. People in our listening area just now have the ability to make a phone call and head over and get a free consultation because this wasn't available before. This is a new, long-lasting relief from chronic joint pain in your knees, back, shoulder, hips. Whatever the joint is, if it's keeping you from doing the things you love to do, hey, the summer might be winding down here, but the joint pain isn't going to go away, and maybe you've tried the traditional techniques and it hasn't worked for you. Maybe it has, but if it's still kind of lingering, try this out. This might be what is the solution you've been looking for to stay active for as long as possible. QC Kinetics gets you moving again with the cutting-edge regenerative treatments you hear me talking about. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. It uses highly concentrated healing properties from your own body to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. And it's the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough natural approach to eliminating that joint pain. So call for that free consultation and find out if QC Kinetics is for you. 615-249-4024. QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with the shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, every day is a beach day. And with 35 miles of pristine, sugary white sand, it's easy to see why. So let's grab the beach bag, the beach ball, and the boogie board. Let's pack the suits, the sunscreen, and the sunglasses. Take a dip in the emerald green waters of the Gulf. And then take in a breathtaking sunset at the end of the day. So let's make a beeline to the beach. And let's shine. Plan your next getaway at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and paid time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
Ad paid for by USA Veteran Law Group. Attention Marines, if you or a loved one lived or worked at Camp Lejeune for more than 30 days between 1953 and 1988, you were exposed to drinking water contaminated with benzene and other highly carcinogenic chemicals, causing those exposed to develop devastating health conditions. You may qualify for significant compensation if you have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, bladder, kidney, or liver cancer, or other serious health conditions. Get justice. Call 844-982-0001 or visit usaveteranlawgroup.com.
Tune in to the Wednesday edition of Robbie and Rex Road. We'll be joined by Paul Kaharski from paulkaharski.com and Outkick 360 to get his thoughts on the 53-man roster for the Titans. Also take a look at the Vols 1 day away from their opening game against Ball State. Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick here with you. Nick Keyser behind the glass as well. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and Facebook every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. We're broadcasting live at the Hillside Medical Game Studios. We'll talk to Tim Hasselbeck today at noon, get his thoughts on the cuts around the league, and specifically the Tennessee Titans. Also, some interesting comments from some colleagues of his when it comes to Ryan Tannehill. That's all coming up a little bit later on in the show. But, Willie, you mentioned this earlier. You listened to the Ringer podcast, and they had some interesting comments when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, and I think it kind of fits the narrative of how people look at the Titans right now.
They definitely see some major question marks with the Titans. I wonder if I just feel like it's a lack of benefit of the doubt for a team that has done a lot to win games. But I think the perspective you're going to hear mirrors a lot of the national perspective. And if I'm Mike Vrabel, I'm using this behind the scenes to really fuel the fire of the doubters out there. But listen to the cynicism here on the NFL Ringer podcast, and it all starts with what they think they're going to see from Derrick Henry.
And the Titans are just going further towards it. To a back that's like a very unique build, and Derrick Henry, who is a unique running style. And Derrick Henry, like everything about Henry is singular in this modern NFL. And then he has a Jones fracture, which I don't know if Jones fracture in the fifth metatarsal. I don't know how much people know about foot injuries, but if there's an injury you don't want to get as like an athlete, as a football player, it's a foot injury. And it's like Liz Frank fractures and Jones fractures. When I see these words, my skin crawls. I'm like, that dude is not going to be back to what he was. Henry came back like for the playoffs. He came back months faster than anybody expected him to. But B, he looked really bad in that playoff game. If you remember, he had like 20 carries for 62 yards. Was it Cardi Blazin game? I think it was one of the backups. It might have been, it was Dontrell Hilliard. Hilliard was looking much better than he was. And then he has an offseason of rehab, and every Titans report that you read, everything out of camp is like, wow, Derrick Henry looks exactly the same as he always has forever, and he's going to be amazing. Also, A.J. Brown's not here anymore, so he's going to be more of the offense. What? He's 29. We don't do this with running backs, right? Like an important thing to understand about age and mileage and players tailing off is that while it's a common thing to say is like, oh, as he gets older, he's going to get worse. And that's true on a group scale, right? When you look at running backs as a group who were 28 and they turned 29, in general, they're a little bit worse. But that's not because they all got a little bit worse. What that statistical sensation you're discovering is a lot of them go from 28 to 29 and stay the same. Some of them go from 28 to 29 and hit the cliff. And that's how age works and mileage works and running out of athleticism works in the league. You go from having it, like remember Andrew Whitworth at 38 was like, oh my gosh, he's still one of the best left tackles. Jason Peters at 37, he's still one of the best left tackles. To all of a sudden, Whitworth at 40, Peters at 39, they can't play. it is. We do not see gradual declines, especially at positions like running back. We see sudden, sharp declines. And if you're telling me a back is almost 30 coming off of a foot injury, there's nobody for whom I should feel more strongly about expecting a strong decline. But it's Derrick Henry, who's got like this unbelievable athlete, he's great build, and everything out of Titans camp right now. I was like, yeah, it's all hunky dory. Why would anybody be concerned about Derrick Henry? He's Derrick Henry. So I'm fascinated, especially with no AJ Brown. Like they're going to need to rely on Henry even more. He's going to need to be even more special than he was. I'm so interested to see what he looks like. I've looked at his rushing yards prop 10,000 times, and I'm like, well, just take the over. Like he's going to get enough carries.
Going to get the ball,
Just
if
do
he's
it.
healthy.
Yeah, and then I can't do it because it's just too scary. So my number one question coming into the season, I want to see what Derrick Henry looks like, man.
It's so funny. I feel like I fired off like 7,000 takes in the last month as you just do podcasts and interviews. I honestly don't even remember the Titans coming up in any of them. So I'm glad you chose Derrick Henry and the Titans. They're just flying under the radar. The Colts are the favorite, gambling wise in that division. We've talked about the Jaguars as a potential sleeper. I mean, the Titans have won. They've been over 500 every year with Mike Vrabel.
You don't need to tell me about the Titans winning games they should without explanation. You were not here on our shows last year, but every single weekly recap was me and Kevin yelling about the Titans. Because Kevin was like, yeah, they win football games. I was like, but they don't deserve to. And it drove me nuts.
Right.
But this is what this team is. They're a contradiction. And Henry's the biggest contradiction of them all.
Yeah, I think their defense could be really interesting. They've got a bunch of young corners who, if a couple of those guys play well, I like their defensive line. Offensively, it's just such a big question mark. O-line is not great. Like you mentioned, they don't have A.J. Brown. We don't know what we're going to see from Treylon Burks. They trade for Robert Woods. And so you're just like, they're not exciting, but you're right. I mean, we could be sitting here doing a podcast in December going, wow, here the Titans are back again competing for the AFC South. So that is a good one. I could have come up with 50, and the Titans probably would not have made my list. So I'm glad you did that because it's good to have a good mix.
So there you go. The narrative from the national media. This happens to be the Ringer, but in my mind, it could be almost anything that you read or listen to from a national perspective. A lot of skepticism, a lot of under the radar, not a lot of hype at all, and it comes down to some of the little things that they said at the end there. Hey, A.J. Brown's gone, new receivers, offensive line. Hey, the defense looks pretty good. But it all starts with, what do you think you're going to see from Derrick Henry? And the workload, age, injury concern of Derrick Henry at where he is in his career, that concern that I have been talking about for the last couple years, really, and I know it's bothered a lot of people. It's not just me, right? It's what they see as well. And what you've got coming back is but it's Derrick Henry.
Right.
And so that is really where, the clash is can he fend off Father Time and still be the back that he's been? It's going to go a long way to how successful this team is going to be. But I think that's a fascinating part of it. But I also really am surprised that the team doesn't get a little bit more benefit of the doubt of the way they figure out how to win, even when they don't get the great performance by Derrick Henry. They have a knack for winning, and I do think that's a skill, even though the analytics would say they've been working the razor's edge. They've overachieved 13-4 in the one-score games over the last 2 years. It's going to be hard to sustain. But that having been said, I think there is a lot that goes into their game planning, their attention to detail, their coaching, and I think that is worth something.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the team getting the benefit of the doubt. I'm surprised that more – like he just won Coach of the Year. Why isn't Mike Vrabel getting more of a benefit of the doubt? I mean, look at what he's done since he's been the head coach. I mean, he's pretty much almost – I mean, he's made the playoffs every year except for the first year, I think, if memory serves me correct.
And they went 9-7 that year.
Yeah, and they were one win away from doing it.
And half the team was hurt, including Mariota and Terrell Casey and Logan Ryan, all those guys that went down in the last couple of weeks. He had a really big rash of injuries there.
He makes the change to Tannehill, gets the team to the AFC Championship game. I feel like people are sleeping on the Titans, but at the same time they're sleeping on Vrabel, and then in the same breath you'll have a lot of those same people that talk about Vrabel and how, well, he's cut from the Belichick cloth and you see a lot of similarities and how he's a former player and his team loves playing for him. Like, why are you not factoring that in more? I mean, just look at what the guy's done in a short amount of time, and I just feel like he deserves, even though, yes, he was the coach of the year, he deserves more credit than he gets. But, again, to his strength, one of his strengths is he loves this. He hears stuff like this, and he's just making notes because I think he loves flying under the radar. He loves when he's doubted. He loves when his team is doubted because that's a motivational tool for him. And there are some, obviously we don't have the access. We're not in the locker room like we have been with the Predators. But, like, one strength that Peter Laviolette really had was how he could motivate his team. Some of the things that he would say to his team, you ask his players, they told you that he was like they'd run through a brick wall once he got done with the pregame speech. I believe Vrabel is very similar. And I think that's the player mentality in him that comes out. And so I feel like he just feeds off of stuff like that and the doubters. I mean, we're going to talk to Tim Hasselbeck at noon. It's not that he doubts the Titans, but he's picked the Colts. He's one of those that believes the Colts is going to win this division. And, look, he might turn out to be right that, the youth movement may be too much. Tannehill could continue to struggle. Maybe Henry's not the same. We're not going to know, until they actually get the season started. But I just feel like having this doubt might catch people, when this is all said and done.
I think the number one concern that we all have is probably the offensive line. I even see a scenario where if Derrick Henry is down a notch, if they're smart about it, I believe that Haskins and Hilliard can pick up the slack some. I think they could still have a pretty good running attack if the offensive line can stay reasonably solid with the run blocking. And see, I think you can break up the offensive line concerns into, can they still be a great run blocking team, which they were last year, even when Henry got hurt? They still got pretty good production. And can they pass protect better than they did last year? There's so much that comes back to that. But I think in terms of Henry not being the same, I have to say I'm not as optimistic as Derek is that Henry will he'll get the 1,500 yards. I don't know. I'm prepared for a lot of different things. I think he'll be reasonably good, but I think they're going to have to be smarter in how they use him. And I would really like to see them show some confidence and try to be creative in how to use Hilliard and Haskins to supplement what Henry is asked to do. I really think that's the best formula. That's my theory as I sit here today. You heard what they said. He averaged 27 carries a game last year, Derrick Henry, in the first 8 games before he got hurt. We'll never know if that contributed to the Jones fracture, but as people have said before, he healed from the Jones fracture. Nobody's talking about that this year, but you do wonder if he's more susceptible to further foot injuries, especially if he gets that same kind of workload. I just wonder behind the scenes, privately, what have they talked about ideas-wise to try to get the best out of what he has left? And I don't think it's right. I shouldn't say right. I don't think it is optimum to sit there and just say, we'll just have Derrick Henry be Derrick Henry of old. I just think
you have to have
we're in a new stage of his career right now, if we're smart.
You have to have plan B.
Yeah.
Wes in Clarksville in our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says the Colts' downfall this year will be their coach. Titans stand a better chance because of Vrabel. I think that is kind of a consensus with a lot of people that, and I've been a fan of Frank Reich.
Not nationally.
No, but I think it may be starting to lean that way, that there's some doubt with Frank Reich and Chris Ballard.
Not enough to not pick him to win the division. It's
true.
Pretty interesting.
That's true. Very, very true. Coming up next, Willie Donick has a playoff update for Major League Baseball. We'll look at kind of where things are and some big games that are coming up in the majors. We'll get back into the Titans and the cut tracker as well. Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up at the top of the next hour. It's Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 2:45.
Sanders for the touchdown, 48 yards.
Former NFL wide receiver Chris Sanders joins Stillman and Company to give his thoughts on all things Titans and NFL. Fueled by Parman Energy, now hiring fuel drivers. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
On Fox 17 Code Red, meteorologist Greg Pope. This morning, temperatures in the 70s. Scattered showers and storms weakening throughout this morning into the afternoon. Will dry out after lunchtime. Humidity decreasing as well. High temperatures for today in the upper 80s to near 90.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
When I retire, I plan on being busy. Bird watching, cooking, traveling. I might even write a book. But I never thought I'd have to plan on being an expert on all things Medicare. Fortunately, with 75 years of experience helping Tennesseans, the experts at Farm Bureau Health Plans helped answer all my Medicare questions. So no matter what I plan on doing next, I understand all my options. Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
Parman Energy is now hiring drivers for their Nashville team. Parman Energy is Tennessee's petroleum solution for major industries. Right now, they're offering competitive compensation. Fuel tank wagon drivers start at $26 an hour. Fuel transport drivers, $29 an hour. Plus, there's a $4,000 sign-on bonus for CDL drivers. Top quality benefits and a great place to work, Parman Energy employees provide totally outrageous customer service. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Thank you for calling Navy Federal Credit Union. How can I help you?
Hi, if I'm in the Army, not in the Navy, am I still eligible for membership?
Yes, you are.
What about my sister in the Air Force?
Her too.
And my dad's a Marine.
We serve all branches of the military, veterans, and their families.
My dog is a retired military working dog.
I'll see what I can do.
Find out if you're eligible at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexrode.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll talk to Corey Curtis here in just a few minutes at 11 o'clock. Tune in for Nashville Sounds baseball tonight at 7:05 on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds are home at First Horizon Park, taking on the Memphis Redbirds, AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by 312 Pizza and Farm Bureau Health Plans. All right, Willie D, you got a little bit of a playoff push update for us?
Well, I'm focusing in on my team and your team because I think that's the most compelling race going on. To our listeners, I know there's a lot of Cardinals fans in our listening area, and they're in pretty good shape right now. They have taken control of the Central. What Albert Pujols is doing is pretty special as he gets closer and closer to 700 home runs in a pennant race. Pretty exciting stuff for the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Mets and the Braves, 3 games apart as they move down the stretch right now. The Mets start a series with the Dodgers, who just simply don't lose. It seems like no matter who gets hurt, the Dodgers have the next guy ready. Some guys you've heard of, some guys you haven't even heard of, and they just keep doing the job. They just mow down everybody. They won in Florida last night, but the Mets start a 3-game series against the Dodgers tonight at Citi Field. So the Mets lead the Braves by 3 games. The Braves start a 3-game series with the Rockies. And it's interesting to look at the two teams' schedule down the stretch. They play a series, the second to last series of the season, in Atlanta. There's only 3 more games head-to-head between the Mets and the Braves. The Mets have a series with the Dodgers starting tonight, and they have a series in Milwaukee. And obviously the Brewers are fighting to catch the Cardinals or get in the wild card. They're still very much in the race. Those are the only series the Mets have left against teams in contention. They have 20 games against teams that are woefully out of the race. The Mets and the Braves have done a pretty good job this year of dominating those teams. The Braves have 15 games remaining against teams that are out of the race, like the Rockies, the team that they're playing tonight. The Rockies are horrendous on the road. They did sneak a win 1-0 over the Mets on Sunday to beat Max Scherzer. Somehow the Mets didn't score at home against the Rockies. So if you lose, it's an upset. Here's what's on the horizon for the Braves. They've got a couple of good series at home that they should do well in. Then they are at Seattle for 3, at San Fran for 3. Remember, Seattle has been as good as anybody for the last couple of months. They've been surprisingly good, and they're trying to get to the playoffs for the first time in like 20 years. So they actually have some good energy out there. It's not what you have been used to seeing from the Mariners here recently. San Francisco is fighting to stay in the wild card hunt, but it's probably not happening. But that's never an easy place to go when you fly out to San Fran. And then they got 4 at Philadelphia, and the Phillies are closing in and trying to make the playoffs. They are on track to do so. They've got Bryce Harper back in the lineup. So the Mets probably have an inside edge of hanging on to the division. But if you're the Braves, what you're hoping for is the Dodgers keep doing what the Dodgers do.
And you take care of the Rockies.
You take care of the Rockies. You can get that. If you can keep it within 1 game, maybe 2, when the Mets come to town at the end of September, then you can create some pressure and try to steal that division. Remember what's at stake between those two teams. The winner of that division is going to be the 2nd overall seed in the National League behind the Dodgers, most likely, and you get a bye in the first round, as long as you don't get caught by the Cardinals, which is unlikely. So you'll avoid playing at 2 out of 3. Remember, this format is different this year. The wild card and then the last division winner, they play that 2 out of 3 series, which is going to be a dogfight. You're talking about teams like the Padres or the Cardinals or the Phillies, who all could knock you off there. So there's a lot going on down the stretch here. It's exciting, and I think they are just driving each other. I predict that the Mets and the Braves will both win over 100 games. They're both on track to do that.
I think you're right. I'll tell you what, though, the Phillies are interesting. I mean, they're since they made the manager change, I mean, they've been the fighting Phils for sure.
They have cleaned up against the bad teams too.
Yep.
So they have done a good job. Now they haven't done as well against the Braves and the Mets, so that's the next thing for them. But you know, let's just say you're playing them in a 2 out of 3 in the playoffs. You're going to face Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler in the first 2 games. That's no picnic right there. Those 2 guys could shut you down on the right day, and we know they can hit. The other part of the Phillies that's weak is the bullpen and the defense. That's where maybe they're a level down from the Mets and the Braves. But it's going to be fun, and I just wonder too, you know, the hunger level of the Braves, having won the whole thing last year. This is when it sort of happened for them. They caught fire down the stretch. I wonder if they can catch that same fever. You play that Major League music, you know, that's what the team did in that movie, right? They had that fever. They got in, you know, can the Braves recreate that? They've had some really good atmospheres in their stadium. The Mets arguably have the best team they've had since '86 when they won the whole thing, and they're just, you know, they're trying to take advantage of that. It would be very disappointing for the Mets, I think, who led at one point by 10 games, to lose that division, even if they made the playoffs. So that's where the pressure is right now.
Well, it's fun. Like it's already getting fun. You know, I'm biased. You're biased. But I do feel like the National League representative, even though the Dodgers are going to be a very, very tough out, I do think it's coming out of the NL East.
You think so?
I do.
Well,
honestly, I think
I hope you're right. But
as much as I would love for it to be my Braves, I think it might be your Mets.
But I think we would acknowledge that no matter what, the Dodgers will probably still have to be the favorite in Vegas, just because they're playing at an incredible pace that, is astounding. I mean, they're playing out west. It's almost boring to watch because they just keep cleaning things up.
But see that?
You know who's having a great year, too? That, he's out on the West Coast. We're not watching maybe as closely as we have been. Mookie. He's having a huge year.
He is.
Huge year.
Well, and the other thing about the Dodgers, though, is, one, how many times have you seen them do things like this and then they get to the playoffs and it fizzles? And, how much of the fact that even though the Padres are still alive, Padres are almost 20 games behind them, and the Padres are fighting for a wild card spot. How much of that playing out west and playing teams that have mailed it in, can be to the detriment of the Dodgers.
Yeah, well,
and I think starting tonight, playing the Mets is going to be a big test for them.
Yeah, I think they'll enjoy the challenge of being in the spotlight and being sort of tonight's game's on TBS, so they'll get a little bit more of the national spotlight. The other thing for the Dodgers is they are not going to have Walker Buehler when the postseason starts. Clayton Kershaw, they think, is coming back, but we know Clayton Kershaw, even though he's done well while he's pitched, is not what he was 5 or 6 years ago, and he's never been the dominant force to carry you through 3 rounds of playoffs, right? He's had some issues in playoff games. So who are they going to go to? They've got Tony Gonsolin, who's come out of nowhere. He's 16-1, and they've got Tyler Anderson, who's 13-2. But those guys were unproven guys in the playoffs. So that, I think, will be the question mark for them. Plus, Craig Kimbrell has been a little shaky up and down as the closer.
Yeah,
isn't it still kind of weird? Craig Kimbrell is closing for the Dodgers. Kenley Jansen is closing for the Braves.
It
still
is
have to
weird.
do a double take.
Yeah,
see that?
but Kimbrell's been gone for a while.
Yeah.
So, I wanted him back, but never happened, so we just kind of moved on. So there you go. There's your baseball update. Coming up next, we'll get back into the Titans. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the 53-man roster. I have my final 53 as well. But coming up this weekend, it's game time. Going to watch some games, going to hang out with my friends, and I am going to enjoy a Screwball peanut butter whiskey. I like mine as a shot, and I like it chilled. Definitely will have one of those, and you should do that too. And the reason that I like it so much is because it goes down smooth, it's natural flavored, and it's made with real peanuts, peanut butter, and whiskey. It's an original, just like me, the suit, and that's why I enjoy it so much. You can have it as a shot. You can have it on the rocks. You can have it as a peanut butter old-fashioned, a PB&J shot with a berry liqueur. You can put gummy bears in it and make it taste like peanut butter and jelly. Just go to screwballwhiskey.com for more recipes and enjoy it any way you like. Just ask for it by name. Say, I want a Screwball peanut butter whiskey, and do like I do. Enjoy it responsibly. Copyright 2022, Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
Heads up. 106.3 FM is a new way to hear 102.5 The Game from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and on I-24 to Murfreesboro.
Make sure you have that preset on your radio dial.
We're making it even easier to listen to Nashville's best sports talk.
Because we have a great show planned for you today.
Tune in to 106.3.
That's what makes this team better.
And hear the difference.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Attention sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite leagues, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the tables. You need a sportsbook with integrity, longevity, and you need to know you're gonna get paid. You need a sportsbook that offers everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horses, esports, and all kinds of crazy bets. Call today at 1-800-79-BET-US. That's 1-800-79-BET-US, and they will walk you through setting up an account. Nobody in the industry gives better bonuses than BetUS. Join now. Mention BetUS 2022, and you can get up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. Nobody beats that. Head to BetUS.com and join today. That's BetUS, where the game begins.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Chase Elliott scores the win in the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushes.
Awesome game.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace with Chase McCabe, Willie Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
11 o'clock hour, Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming on the Game Nashville app. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you today. D-Mace with the day off. He'll be back on Friday, taking his son back to college. We say hello now to Corey Curtis from News 2, the sports director over there. Corey, how you doing?
I am delightful, fellas. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Look, watching the broadcast Saturday night, you kind of got the sense that could be it for Brett Kern. The Titans make it official yesterday that their longtime punter, the longest tenured Titan to this point, now it's Taylor Lewan. They part company with him. What do you think is next for Brett Kern?
Well, I don't think he is just going to run to the altar with the first person who offers. Okay?
I would agree.
I think number one, they're going to have to pay him, okay, and then it's going to have to be the right fit because this is home. He does have family here. He's put in a long time, and I think he's got some pride. You know, he's not gonna just go kick for anything. And I think you brought it up earlier in the show. You know, he's already due about $1 million for the Titans, and that's where that offset language comes into play that we always hear about with those rookie contracts that you don't get paid. You don't get paid twice. So if he's due that, I think a team's going to have to come in for probably close to $2 million if they want him to come kick because, he's not going to go kick for $100,000 or $200,000. That's not worth his time to be away from his family and move around the country.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's basically what I was saying earlier, that it was going to have to be a really good deal for them to for him to go kick somewhere. The Titans acquire another offensive lineman yesterday, Daly from the Carolina Panthers. Depth guy, don't see him as a starter, but what do you think this means for Dylan Radins, if anything?
Well, it's not great for Dylan Radins, right? It means that they felt they had to upgrade their swing tackle position. And whether that's because of Dylan Radins or Jamarco Jones, they needed somebody, all right? And they've got a guy who, maybe he's not a world beater. I don't know. I haven't watched that much of the Carolina Panthers the last few years because they're terrible. But he started 21 games and he's played in 34 games. So he's got considerable experience. He's also got considerable size at 6'6", 325 pounds. And so, I think, they're not trading away a fifth-round pick, to take a stab at a guy. They traded because they think if somebody goes down, this guy can come in and play for them. So it's certainly not a vote of confidence, I would say that.
Corey Curtis with us. So, Corey, let's just go down the line. Do we think Dennis Daly is the backup on the depth chart at left tackle and right tackle and left guard? Is that the ideal situation, or do you think Jamarco Jones is in this equation somewhere?
I don't know because, look, we haven't seen a lot of Jamarco Jones. When I talked to Coach Vrabel one time, he was telling me that, Jamarco had just come off like his best, 3 or 4 days of practice and was coming on, and then he got hurt again. And, this team learned the hard way last year, once again, how important availability is. And it's hard to go in to the season with that big of a question mark at that position. This guy has started at left tackle. He's played some of the interior line as well. So, I don't know if, say if Taylor went down, if he would be the left guard and Petit Frere would be the left tackle, and if Petit Frere would be the right, or if they would swing Petit Frere back over to the left side because he played that in the preseason as well. It would just have to be whichever one they felt better about. At the guard spot, I don't know, because Corey Levin, I thought, had a pretty decent preseason. And so, Corey Levin or Dylan Radins could be first up at the guard spot. But maybe it is this guy. We have to wait and see. I feel better about Corey Levin playing more than any of their other backup linemen.
And here's hoping that after today we can take a break and not have to talk about any of these guys for a few weeks, especially Radins, who has gotten so much airtime that over the last month than hopefully he's going to get over the next few months, because it wouldn't be good for the Titans if he's in the news that much. But
I don't think it's going to stop today, Willie, because you got the waiver wire you got to get through over the next 24
so maybe I'm looking
hours.
at next Monday as a safe bet. Okay, I can hold out until then.
Okay.
All right, Corey, I just saw Trace McSorley, who, he had his moments the other night. We got to see him firsthand. They have waived him, and I guess there's been a slew of people saying they're hoping to put him back on the practice squad as the number 3. They've got Colt McCoy. Do we think that is the likely move by the Titans with Logan Woodside?
I do. I think that the likely move is that he gets waived and put on the practice squad. You never know, but from everything I have seen and heard, I believe Malik is the number 2. And I thought there would be 3 quarterbacks going into the season, but I thought it was going to be 3 with Logan being the number 2. What I saw from Malik Saturday night really kind of shocked me, because I thought he took such a gigantic leap forward in that game from where he was. It gave me a sense of optimism for how much he's learned and how quickly he's improved. I think John Glennon tweeted out the PFF numbers on his release time was a full second faster in that football game. And I don't care if you say they were shorter passes or not. He made faster reads and more decisive decisions, and that's what it's about, and he let the football fly. So I really think it'll be 2, but you do have to have a third, for your practice squad, and I would assume that'll be Logan Woodside.
Do you think there's any debate at all, if they have them both in a perfect world, that if and when the time comes, and hopefully it doesn't, but that maybe they would go with Woodside, especially if it was earlier in the season, that they think Woodside could give them a better chance to win than Willis?
Nope. I think they would put Malik Willis out there.
You're that sure?
That's the way I feel. Look, the kid may not have the mastery of the offense that Logan Woodside does, but you know what he has? Playmaking ability. He can go out there, and they can design things to accentuate the way he plays. Okay? And so I think they have seen all that. Because, you look at Saturday night and the way that thing started. They were struggling to protect him. And how did he change the game? With 150-yard run. And then they kind of got things rolling a little bit. And it's just, Mike Vrabel, I've said this about 5 times now on the radio, so forgive me. He throws around compliments like manhole covers. And, he's been really complimentary of Malik Willis. He really likes the kid. I haven't had a chance to talk to John Robinson really about him, but the head coach likes him, and I know the head coach likes Logan Woodside too, so that's not really an issue. But, you talk about talent and playmaking ability, and what do we always say? Players win games. And Malik Willis has ability to make plays that win games.
We're talking to Corey Curtis, News 2 sports director. I think we all know that coaches and GMs, they have the public team goals and what they want to do. Everybody wants to win the division. Everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. We all know that. But then behind the scenes, there's the, okay, what if this happens? Then what do we do? Do you feel like that maybe internally, and maybe then they don't even talk about it, they're looking at Ryan Tannehill and going, X, X, and X has to happen with him for us not to turn the keys over after this season to Malik Willis, or do you think they address that kind of as the season goes?
Well, I think it's a really good question, first of all, Chase, because they can save $20 million about next year if they were to move on, and that's a significant amount against the salary cap. And look, he's had a good camp, and I think we all expect him to play well this year. And I do think that there's two factors in it. I think both quarterbacks are a factor in it. What kind of season does Tannehill have, and how much improvement does Malik Willis show? You remember Kansas City with Alex Smith? He came off arguably the best year of his career, and they said goodbye and put in Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And that turned out to be the right decision. So sometimes there's a ceiling that they see, and they say, this is your ceiling. We just saw it. It was great, but it wasn't good enough to win the Super Bowl. We think this guy's ceiling is higher. So we'll see in a year where they think Tannehill's ceiling is and where they think Malik Willis' ceiling is, and where they both are in approaching those numbers. Like I said, because Malik has improved more. From when they drafted him, I did not think he would improve this much this quickly. That does not mean I believe he's ready to start right now in the National Football League. I think being a third-round pick of the Titans and coming in as the backup is the perfect scenario for him. But where's he going to be next May? That's going to be interesting to see.
As I look at the tight ends, Corey, I have 3 in Hooper, Okonkwo, and Swain. But, look, I can't ignore the fact that the Falcons just released Michael Pruitt.
Tight end 1.
Tight end, there you go.
Football's all-time leading receiver.
Could you see that being the case where maybe he comes back for a third time, even though he's coming off a pretty big injury?
He did play for the Houston Texans. So that kind of makes him attractive anyway. Look, he's a guy that they've learned they could trust. Michael can block. He can play special teams, and yes, he can catch the football. I always joke about him being the all-time leading receiver at my school, but he was. He can go up there, he can get the football, and he can make plays. I know they like Jeff Swain, but you're never going to convince me Jeff Swain is better than Michael Pruitt. But they don't have to convince me. He has to convince them. I do believe he is unquestionably a better choice than Tommy Hudson at this juncture. So I think it would be just a matter of how healthy is he, because I think that's up for debate, because that was a significant injury, like you said. And are they going to carry 4?
Well, we will see how it all shakes out. 3 o'clock today is when the roster has to be at 53. Corey, good to talk to you as always, and we will do it again soon.
All right, I appreciate it. And I didn't say this, and I should have when we were talking about Kern. From my understanding, from people I talked to, it doesn't sound like teams are coming to him with massive offers right now.
Right.
It seems like the money's a little low. But he's in a good spot. He doesn't have to take it now. He can wait and see if somebody's punter doesn't work out or if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And then he's still in a position.
Including here.
And that was one of the first things I thought of is, God forbid, what if Stonehouse goes and pulls his hammy week 1?
Yeah, or he's just not what they thought. Look, I don't think that door's closed by any means.
No, that kid's what they thought, guys. He's got a freaking cannon. All right, there's no question about it. There's no question about it. That kid can kick the football.
Well, let me see him under pressure situations in November with a playoff spot on the line.
That's fine. Just go, unload. Just cock and fire. I've seen enough. He knows what he's doing.
But the touch, you're okay on the touch?
He dropped a 70-yard punt in the air
we all
on
saw
the 1 and checked it up to 6, guys.
Yeah, one time in a preseason game. We got to see if he does it every week.
He had 3 inside the 20 in that game.
He did.
Okay?
He did the job. but he's a rookie, so I think it's a fair question to ask. Does it translate? Everything looks good.
He's not going to have all the tricks in his bag that Brett Kern has after 15 years in the league. But you know what he's got right now? Really good tricks for a 22-year-old.
Yep, he looks the part. I'm with you. I am endorsing this move. I'm just saying that you're confident. I don't know if I'm quite as confident as you are, but he's definitely got all of the tools. But the mental part of it is really, really big.
Listen, you're absolutely right. And if they had kept Brett Kern, you could easily just, yep, I get it, because Brett had a great camp as well. And so I would have had no problem with it. For me, this is a decision of the next 12 years as opposed to a decision of the next 1 or 2. And I think this is the decision almost every team in the National Football League would make. And I think if Brett Kern was the general manager of a football team, it's probably the decision that he would make.
Yep, no doubt about it. Corey, thanks as always. We'll do it again soon.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Corey Curtis, News 2 sports director, joining us, and some valid points there for sure. A lot of stuff to take away. But coming up next, The Athletic has their win predictions for all 32 NFL teams. And I always find this stuff, as a gambler, a little bit fascinating as well. So we will get into that coming up next. Tim Hasselbeck coming up at noon. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, summer's over, but is that joint pain still there? Well, it's time to do something. Willie Donick here, and I want to tell you about QC Kinetics. You've put it off long enough. It's time to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, your back, your shoulder, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. Regenerative medicine uses highly concentrated healing properties from your own body, and it restores and repairs the damaged joint tissue. Plus, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough natural approach to eliminating joint pain. Lots of people here have done this, and they're living life to the fullest pain-free. So don't assume that the old ways of dealing with joint pain are the only ways. Stop putting it off. Call for a free consultation. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Once again, 615-249-4024.
Hey, homeowners and home buyers, listen up. Loan Pronto has 30-year fixed rates with APRs in the 4s and 15-year loans with APRs that start with 3. Hey, it's Willie Donick. Don't be confused by the media's hype about interest rates. At Loan Pronto, their rates have plummeted recently, and they're currently refinancing homeowners who locked in a 5 or 6% rate. So if you've got a rate over 5%, or if your lender has you pre-approved or locked in at anything 5% or higher, you need to call Loan Pronto now. Not all lender rates are created equal. Loan Pronto's rates are down big time, and you need to take advantage, whether you are buying, refinancing, getting cash out, or even if you just closed a few weeks ago. Call Loan Pronto today, and you could save tens of thousands of dollars. Loan Pronto can help keep more money in your pocket. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Now's the time to make a message known. All working-class Tennesseans vote no on Amendment 1 this voting season. Right to work does not belong in the state constitution. Hardworking families deserve to have their needs addressed in today's economy. Visit TennesseeWorkerAlliance.org, paid for by the Nashville Building Trades.
Hey guys, Jeremy here, General Manager at Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. We are the go-to spot in Nashville for the best old-fashioned, a nice relaxing cigar, and lots of high-end spirits and wine. Are cigars not your thing? No problem. We have the best ventilation system in the industry that provides a fresh, clean atmosphere for you and your friends. We are here to provide you a trendy, upscale experience in the heart of downtown. Check us out at 508 Church Street. Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Luxury redefined.
Listen to Stillman & Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets, courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
I love this show.
Never miss a moment of the show.
Okay, all right, okay.
Subscribe to the Chase, Willie, and D-Mace podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim Hasselbeck coming up at high noon. Look forward to talking to him. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you. D-Mace with the day off. Nick Keiser behind the glass. You can weigh in on our phone or text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com every day. As now we're going to go around and see what the Athletic says about win totals when it comes to all 32 NFL teams. I do think this is an interesting text to kind of lead into this when it comes to the division. Joe on our text line says the Colts have to play the Titans defense twice by week 6. We will know by then who wins the division. That is interesting that they play so early. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say that you're going to know who's going to win the division. A lot else can happen. But from a head-to-head matchup with the two teams that are predicted to be competing for this division, they will play both games before the end of October.
That happened last year, as I recall. I think it was week 8 that they played for a second time in Indy, and that was the fateful game where the Titans came from behind and won. Very dramatic win in overtime, but that was the game that Derrick Henry got hurt. So it's not that different from last year in that respect. It was interesting. Remember we talked about the Colts last year. They went 8-2 in the middle of the season, and for a while it did look like they were going to get back into the division race after I think they started 1-4. And then, of course, they had the very mystifying collapse the last 2 weeks, and they missed the playoffs entirely. I don't know if I buy that theory. Very well could be the case.
Sure.
But this is going to play into the theme of what I've been saying all along, and I think people notice it. Just look around. Here's another one. Earlier today we talked about a podcast in which two people who cover the league for The Ringer, they like the Colts in the division. We're going to have Tim Hasselbeck on at noon. He likes the Colts over the Titans. Here is The Athletic, and specifically Austin Mock, who is an NFL betting guy, but he does it with simulations. He simulated 100,000 times the season, and it got an expected win total for each team. Now, what I don't know, and I've read a couple articles by Austin Mock, I don't know what goes into the data that he runs. I'd like to know more about that. So we need to get him on the show is what we need to do. I'd like to talk to Austin because I want to know more about how he comes up with this.
Can make that happen.
But this is what a lot of people do now to get the probability. They have the Buffalo Bills as the team that has the biggest win total after the 100,000 simulations. But like, who puts in the data that they simulate? That's my question. Let's assume that he knows what he's talking about. He's got the Bills at 11.6. One of the reasons they have that, the schedule plays a big part in this whole thing.
Yeah, they got a tough schedule.
The Bills actually don't have a tough schedule.
No?
For a first-place team. They play in the AFC East, so they get the Jets twice. It depends on what you think of the Dolphins and the Patriots. But they also get the NFC North, which has two teams in a transitional year, and the NFC North, with two teams
Rams,
they could pick in the top 10. Yeah, well, every first-place team plays the other first-place teams. We get that. But for a first-place schedule, it appears to be easier than the Titans' first-place schedule.
Yeah, well, the Rams game is the extra game.
Yeah, when you finish first, you get the three first-place teams, just like the Titans do. So that's always going to be tough. But in the divisions you go head-to-head, where everybody in the division gets these teams, they get a break, I think. I mean, that's a fair thing.
I don't know, man.
NFC North and AFC North?
Yeah, but the AFC North, you can't tell me, like, I don't know what that is. I mean, that could be either really good or really bad.
Okay, fair point. Fair point.
Like Baltimore finished last in the division last year. I don't think they're going to finish last this year.
I kind of like them as a sleeper.
Pittsburgh is a team that I slept on, and now I'm kind of like, maybe they're better.
But what's their ceiling, really? More than 10 wins? If they had a great year, could they have 10 wins? Yeah, I just don't see much higher than that. Anyway, They've got the Bills at 11.6. Packers 11.4. Dallas 10.6. Third overall. Kansas City 10.6. Buccaneers 10.5. Rams 10.1. None of these are big surprises. But here is where it gets down to it. Indianapolis 10 wins. Tennessee Titans, keep scrolling. It's going to take you a while to get down there. 8.6. So they see almost a game and a half difference on paper in the simulator. I guess, what do you call the simulator? It's not paper, right? They're not doing these simulations on paper. So when you say, what would be the equivalent of on paper? In data? In the chips? The software chip?
Because they're my guess is they calculate individual player stats.
No, I'm just saying what would be our slang term for it instead of on paper? Because that's a misnomer.
The microboard? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we'll come up with something. Maybe if you can text us an idea, we'll come up with a new. But a game and a half. Now let's read you the reaction. Now Joe Rexroad, our own man, he challenges this. They have a writer for each athletic team, basically taking that number that the simulator has come up with and saying, I agree or disagree. Joe says it's a pretty easy call on the over, and he gives sort of the ideas that we've been sharing for months leading up to training camp. He says, it requires Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill to be healthy backfield partners. If they are, they've got questions at right tackle, left guard. But he says, all that being said, he likes them as a 10-win team. Tight end is upgraded with Austin Hooper. Variety is better at receiver. The thing that many are missing on the Titans is the potential for their defense to be outstanding, especially with the corner group improving. I do think that people sleep on the Titans' defense. Now, let's give you the argument for the Colts, and then, Chase, I want to hear your reaction to this. 10 for the Colts. This feels like a fair number. This is Zach Kiefer from The Athletic reacting. Considering the AFC West teams the Colts will face this fall, the benefit they have, in theory at least, is 3 or 4 wins against AFC South bottom dwellers in Houston and Jacksonville. Of course, the Titans get those same games. My sense is we'll get a good feel for whether the Colts might be able to creep into the double-digit 11 or 12-win plateau 4 weeks in after they've opened with Houston and Jacksonville. Then they face 2 tough tests, Kansas City, and then, of course, the Titans in Week 4. I just don't see the Colts as a game and a half better on paper than the Titans. I still use on paper, but in simulator.
Look, the first 2 weeks of the season, they opened the season at Houston. Okay, they should win that game. They haven't won at Jacksonville, which is Week 2, since in like 8 years.
Right. They're going to win
something like that.
Year.
Oh, you don't know. You don't know that. You say that.
They're due.
And they are due. The odds would tell you they're due. Then they host Kansas City. Then they host the Titans. Then they're at Denver. Jacksonville at home. Then they're at the Titans. The Commanders, at the Patriots, at the Raiders, Eagles, Steelers, Cowboys, at Vikings. Look, their schedule is definitely favorable to them winning 10 games.
That is my number one concern when I'm trying to do the justification why I think the Titans are better than the Colts. I think the Titans are better than the Colts. But the Colts have an advantage in the schedule, and I'm going to memorize it so I don't have to flip through my notes again. But remember the difference. It boils down to 3 games. The Titans have to face Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen. And the Colts do not have to face those 3. Instead, they face Trubisky / whoever the Steelers guy is, Kirk Cousins, and Mac Jones. There is a difference there. That's the advantage that the Colts have. So is that a game and a half difference? I don't buy it. I still think the Titans have a very good shot at winning the division. I guess next week we'll make some official predictions here. Last year I picked the Colts.
We need your questions too.
I'll have those ready. Oh, believe me, they'll be ready. They'll be ready this week.
Yeah.
When D-Mace comes back on Friday, he better be ready for my 10 Titans
I bet I can already predict one question.
Okay.
Will Nicholas Petit-Frere be the starting right tackle
absolutely.
midseason?
One of the biggest questions that pertaining to the team, right?
Yep.
I'm going to try to avoid having Dylan Radins as one of the 10 questions. He was in one of the 10 last year.
Well, just wait till we get to my 53-man roster.
That's coming today.
Right there. That's coming up after Tim Hasselbeck.
So the simulation, Colts 10 wins, Titans 8.6. Again, put it down on the list of things. A lot of skepticism on the Titans this year.
What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with the Athletic? 615-737-1025. You can call or text on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I'll give my thoughts on this more coming up next here on Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Titans training camp is underway.
Talking Titans?
What wide receivers make the team?
Traylon Burks.
The physicality.
Robert Woods.
Route concepts and how to get open. Who starts on the offensive line?
It's a full-on right tackle battle.
What other storylines will stand out?
Malik Willis, some of the best he's looked in camp.
Titans training camp coverage is fueled by Parman Energy. Now hiring fuel drivers. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com and by USA Hemp Store on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Chevrolet Buick GMC. We all know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. So with that in mind, we're discounting all of our white vehicles. Well, maybe we should just discount the lighter colors that are close to white too, and maybe the red and blue ones since we celebrate this in America. Okay, fine. I'll discount all the cars, starting right now. On top of that, we want to celebrate all of your hard work with the most American lunch we can think of. Hot dogs. Hot dogs all day on Labor Day. So come kick your feet up, get a new car of any color, and enjoy a hot dog. You can even shop online for a new car with Newton FastPass. But you'll have to make your own hot dogs that way. Sorry. Visit NewtonChevroletBuickGMC.com to learn more.
Hey, it's Big Joe on the go. Look, I get it. Nobody likes being in a car accident, but when that happens, make it easy on yourself and call Apple Collision Centers so you don't have to stress. They're locally owned with 3 convenient locations in Oak Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Apple Collision Centers managers combined for 60-plus years experience, and they only recommend original equipment parts on your vehicle. So, if you're in need of a repair today or down the road, just head over to Apple Collision Centers. Stan and his team will take great care of you. Online, applecollisioncenters.com.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come, join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
National Playmakers Academy with former Vols Buck Fitzgerald and James Stone, along with former Austin Peay Governor Vic Wright, offer one of the best football developmental organizations in the nation. MPA has over 30 NFL alumni, 800-plus college football scholarship signees, and 25 high school football All-Americans. If you have a student athlete in middle school or high school that is looking for the best football training and college football recruiting help around, contact National Playmakers Academy today, 615-456-2680. Or email april.mpafootball@gmail.com.
Everyone, who's manning the front tonight?
Big E's nightclub needs a bouncer with a military background.
Dougie, I need you to keep eyes on the back.
Security who lays down the no-no when the uns get too intense.
That Swedish DJ duo is back tonight. Y'all remember last time.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Your home for Hit City is 94.9 The Fan.
Your Nashville Sounds are back at First Horizon Park for a 6-game set against the Memphis Redbirds.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Coverage begins at 6:50.
On your home for Sounds baseball, 94.9 The Fan and the Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. A reminder, your favorite game, Silly Underdog Picks, is back. Sign up today at thegamenashville.com or on the 102.5 The Game app. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. We will make our picks, our first edition, coming up at noon on Thursday. Now, D-Mace, of course, is going to be absent for the first one. We're going to have to call him. He's going to have to do this by phone.
He's going to be in Beantown.
He will be. So you're the commissioner once again, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, but, that's fine.
I don't think a lot of people. I just think it's a couple people. One guy that used to play quarterback in the NFL for about 12 years.
Yeah, but we're bringing somebody else back that I think has some issues with it.
He might have some issues.
He's the one that made you commissioner to begin with.
You know what? I kind of made, if the truth be told, I kind of made myself commissioner.
Okay.
Because I wasn't, at the time, I was kind of a rookie. Just like Nick's the rookie this year, for the producer. My rookie year, I was just looking for something to make myself useful. I wasn't involved in the picks. And I was like, you know what? They don't keep score.
Well, now
they just did the segment every week, but they weren't keeping track of who was doing well. No, they weren't.
So we have no idea, like the early days of silly underdog picks, who won or who didn't.
No, I have the record of it because I started writing it down and saying, guys, you guys ought to actually keep track. And I'll tell you another thing: the first year or two, they didn't even track how many points they got. They just picked an underdog. So, some of the guys were smart enough to say, if I pick a 2-point underdog, they have a much better chance of winning than a 7-point underdog or a 10-point underdog. So I came up with the idea as the commissioner of let's assign points to the risk you're taking. The higher the underdog, the more points you get. That's how I became the commissioner. It wasn't some vote, of the people or even the panel. It was like, guys, you guys need to start keeping track of how you're doing this.
Can I take us off-road for a second?
It sounds like it looks like you're very intrigued on what's happening with, you got parking passes there?
Yeah, I got parking passes, but just look at tell me the date on that.
Okay. I got a parking pass that you just got in the mail.
Just got in the mail.
This expired June 24th, 2022. And I'm not really sure what you got. But you have full access.
I got full access.
This is great. You got full access, but it expired June 24th. What was this to?
This was to the race at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Oh.
It's postmarked June 9th. It is August 30th, and I just got these.
You just got these. So these haven't been sitting in your mailbox. You're just too busy to look at your.
No, they were just sitting on my desk. Somebody just put them on my desk. Now, were they here at the office somewhere, and somebody just decided to give them to me, or what?
Now the question is, would you take these to a future event and just show the pass, and just hope that it flies?
No.
No. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Use the ticket from a past event.
It was a parking pass, it wasn't a ticket. The thing now is you have barcodes and QR codes, and it's kind of hard to do that. Now I have milked an old parking pass for a while.
You've milked an old parking pass.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever taken one of those things where you put your credit card in and get the little piece of paper in a lot to go eat?
Yeah.
And it's got the date on there, and you buy 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, whatever you're getting. Have you ever tried to recycle one of those?
Sharpies come into play sometimes.
Do they? So you've tried that.
Like I said, I have milked some parking passes before.
I wonder what the tactic is of the people that come in and check those things, right? How close do they look? Are they looking for the Sharpie?
Well, not very.
You can vouch for
in
that.
The particular lot that I use, not very.
Okay. I'll give you I am not one that likes to pull this sometimes, but way back in the day before the barcode and everything like that, I did use, this was a sad story. I went home. I was a college student. I stopped playing basketball, so it's my senior year. I actually got to go home for the Christmas holidays for the first time. So the Orlando Magic are playing. We're talking about a rookie Shaq. We're talking about a team in my hometown, which was never there when I was growing up. The Magic were an expansion team after I left for college, so I had never gone to a Magic game. I get tickets with my younger brother who's in high school, and we're getting ready to go to the game. Problem is, we got tickets for a game that had already been played.
Oh, no.
A couple days before I got back from school.
Oh.
So my brother's like, this is no problem. We're still going to go. Game sold out. Shaq is in the house. He's a rookie. So we just and I would never be bold enough to do this by myself, but he has the guts of a burglar. All right, he's that guy. So he just casually, we walked up to the ticket taker. He smiles at her, just how you doing tonight? So she ripped up the tickets. We walked right in.
Interesting.
For a game that had already been played.
Oh.
Now, we didn't have seats, so that we spent the rest of the night kind of sliding around trying to find a couple seats that weren't taken.
See, it was so much easier to do that back then.
It was.
You can't do it now.
Yeah, it can't. It really can't be done now. You got to really be high tech. But the parking thing I think can still work. So these parking passes you just got, I feel like these could be of service to somebody.
I'll hang on to them for next year.
I think if you just hang a really nice bright parking pass in your dash, people don't ask questions. They're like, he's got a pass.
What I'm mad about is the parking pass that I had. I mean, look, I got parking, so it didn't matter. But I think these would have been better. so
this was upgraded parking that
yes,
you didn't get to use.
Yeah, I could have industry reserved. I would have been with I would have been with Dale Jr.
Now we got to find out where was the breakdown. Like, when did they send it? Was it the post office?
Where
was it
is
the people?
Kenny the mailman? I need to know what happened with the
Kenny
mail
might
here.
be able to help us out. Maybe somebody at the Super Speedway. We can investigate this. Or did you just have this somewhere in your desk, but your duties as the suit?
It
you
was
just
sitting.
overlooked it.
I just walked into my office. I had mail on my desk. D-Mace has some mail.
A mailman brought this to the thing today?
Well, somebody from here probably brought it up to my desk.
Okay, so could there have been a breakdown downstairs?
It might have been.
Could have been.
A full-on investigation is going to be
The suit
launched.
will have to investigate. This is going to be on the docket at the next meeting.
But now that I've gotten us off track, which is, opposite of my job, but whatever. The Athletic has the Titans win total at 8.6. I agree with our colleague Joe Rexroad that I do think it's over. I an Indy at 10, I'm like, I do wonder about Frank Reich at this point. And I've been a huge fan of Frank Reich, but they keep changing quarterbacks, which is obviously not his fault. That's on the GM. Can Matt Ryan still be effective? Or is Matt Ryan basically a shell of his former self, and this team's just not going to be as good as everybody thinks they are? And time is going to tell. Their schedule is favorable for 10 wins. The Titans is obviously a very tough schedule with the quarterbacks that they got to play, and the fact you got the Giants, and then you got Bills, Raiders, Colts back to back, and two of those are on the road in Buffalo and Indy. So I think that's a lot of on paper where they're coming up with the 8.6, but I just think this team is going to end up being better than people think and put up more of a fight.
I think it's an assumption that everybody here who is watching the Titans is in the boat of this team could compete for a Super Bowl. They're still believing that. Now, here's maybe the question for the texters or the callers, 615-737-1025. I just love to get just some quick feedback here. Do you accept that the Colts are the favorite in the division? Because they are. In Vegas, they are. And we've been documenting all of the people, and our guest at noon will second that, unless he's changed his mind in the last few weeks since training camp started. Tim Hasselbeck likes the Colts. Do you accept that the Colts are the favorite in the South? 737-1025. I want to hear it. Do you accept it, or do you believe that everybody's wrong?
You can call or text. We will do that coming up next here on Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Silly Underdog Picks is back. Get your friends and sign up today at thegamenashville.com. Pick the 3 football underdog teams each week you think will win for a chance to win weekly prizes. Like a pair of tickets to a sporting event or to a concert in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com or the Game Nashville app and sign up and play now. Then tune in every Thursday at noon for our expert picks. Silly Underdogs is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket.
Sports fans, your favorite sports book, BetUS.com, is back for their 28th year of NFL action with the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%. BetUS offered their members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite leagues, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. They've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest European slots, and their live dealers are waiting for you at the tables. You need a sport book with integrity and longevity, and you need to know that you will get paid. You need a sport book that offers everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horse racing, esports, and all kinds of crazy bets. Call today at 1-800-79-BET-US. That's 1-800-79-BET-US, and they will walk you through setting up your account. Nobody in the industry gives better bonuses than BetUS. Join now, mention 1025, and you can get up to 200% of bonuses on your first deposit. Nobody beats that. Head to BetUS.com and join today. That's BetUS, where the games begin.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus. Morning temperatures in the 70s. Scattered showers and storms weakening throughout this morning into the afternoon. Will dry out after lunchtime. Humidity decreasing as well. High temperatures for today in the upper 80s to near 90.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
What I would tell people is that you don't have to be in pain anymore.
Meet Dr. Justin Garzone, Medical Director at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in using advanced regenerative medicine to give people lasting relief from chronic joint pain.
What's exciting is that I get to see patients with our treatments actually get better.
Have you discovered regenerative medicine? It's an all-natural way to use the power of your own body to restore and repair damaged tissue.
We're using things that are already in your body, and we're simply concentrating them and then put it in an area of your body that you're having the pain so that your body can start the regenerative process, the healing process.
For pain in your knees, hips, back, shoulders, don't assume the old treatments are the only treatments. Avoid drugs and surgery and get lasting relief. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024.
Jared Stillman.
This is a team that the entire city is losing their minds over.
Caroline Fenton.
It's one of the youngest teams in the league. They don't have a single player over the age of 30.
Stillman and Company. Afternoons from 2 to 6.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McKay, Willie Donick with you today. Nick Keyser behind the glass. Real quick, before we get to our text line, Willie, I have an update. I have just, during the break, done an investigation on the mail and the parking passes. I was informed.
That expired in June.
Then it's expired in June. I was informed that this mail has just come in. This has not been sitting. It has not been sitting there, tucked away. It has just come in.
All right, so that leaves. So it's not on our end. It's not a dereliction of duty.
Yes.
From the downstairs crew that just didn't bring the mail upstairs and it just misplaced it. So it's coming from. It was late sent out, or got hung up in the mail somewhere.
I opened another piece of mail that I believe that there was this is something with the post office, because it's not June, but it was definitely a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So this is, look,
it's
I don't know where Kenny the mailman is.
If the race was August 15th or something, but this is a race. I mean, this thing expired in June.
I know.
That's lots of ways back.
615-737-1025. Nate on our text line says, yes, I like it. The Titans perform the best when Vrabel has something he can put in the locker room building to tell the guys that no one believes they can win the division.
Maybe it's just me. I am really fixated on this, that the expectation level is that 8.6 is really not that far off. Most people have the Titans in sort of that 15-16 range overall among the 32 teams. and it's an 8, 9, or 10 win team, and not much more than that. Very few people are looking at them as a Super Bowl contender, which is what I think everybody believes here, that they're still fighting to be in the window to do. Otherwise, you could have maybe approached the roster differently. So is everybody wrong? So how do you feel like this? I think Nate is onto something, that the Titans kind of like being that team that's disrespected or not given the benefit of the doubt. But I want to hear what the listeners have to say. Do you kind of like this, or does this concern you that so many people think the Titans are down a notch and more of a mediocre team? I mean, 8.6, that's a 500 team, 17-game season. That's 8-9 or 9-8. 615-737-1025.
Another texter, this is Lewis. Good morning, guys. The fact that Tannehill he has 3 intersections, so I think
intersections.
Yeah, 3 interceptions in the last game is still fresh on everyone's minds. That's why the Titans are not the favorites to win the division. Look, there's no doubt that factors in.
It does.
His last game,
the last impression. The Colts don't have a last impression in the playoffs because they didn't make the playoffs.
But to me, while that does factor in with the division, he's been a pretty good regular season quarterback. It's been the playoffs that you sit here and you go, wait, there needs to be more.
I agree with that, but if that's the case, then you still would have them higher than 8.6 wins or 8-9 wins. I think there's a lot more doubt beyond what Tannehill has done. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And intersections, I guess, the ball did intersect with the wrong team, so that would be sort of an intersection that turned into an
autocorrect will get you.
Autocorrect will get you.
Jeff says if Vrabel and the staff can get this O-line whipped into shape in pass and run block, I believe Tannehill will have a really good season, as will the receiving core. If so, I believe the Titans are the team to beat in the division.
But am I wrong in saying I feel like everybody's expectation here is a lot higher than the national expectation?
Yeah.
And is that dangerous?
I think it's either higher or it's I need to wait and see. It's reserved. Like, for me, I have this really good –
Are you going to – like, when we do our predictions, are you going to say they're going to win 8 or 9 games?
No, I'm picking them to win the division.
And you are a big optimist, right? We've kidded you about this, but that's not unrealistic, right? So what – are you saying they're going to win the division with 10 wins?
No, I think 11.
I think all of us,
11 and 6
even those of us that are optimistic and believe in Vrabel and believe in the system, I don't see going past 11 wins based on the schedule, right? I think if they're going to win it, I think it's they get to 11. The Colts aren't quite as good. The Jaguars probably win more games in this equation, and they overcome the handicap of having the tougher schedule, at least the handicap as we sit here today. Now, the old adage, remember the schedule difficulty can be very different when you actually get to the games because of injuries and everything like that.
Yeah. The other thing is, you just mentioned that, is the division as a whole going to be better? We don't think Houston is, but they seem to love Davis Mills. So whatever Lovie Smith and all of them are building down there, we'll see. But I think Jacksonville is going to be better. How much better? I don't know. But are they 6-7 wins? Okay. Well, those 6 or 7 wins, if that's the case, got to come from somewhere. So who's to say that they don't beat the Colts in week 2 or they don't sneak up and get the Titans, at some point? I mean, they have to come from somewhere. And so if the division as a whole is better, that's obviously going to factor in to what the record looks like. But the Titans as a whole could be a lot better than people think. They're young. The youth movement has a lot to do with this too. The fact that you've traded A.J. Brown. Yes, you brought in Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, but he's not a true number 1 receiver. And then Treylon Burks has had a very up and down camp.
I think if you list the reasons why, the number 1 reason is they don't feel like Derrick Henry will be the same. That's number 1. Number 2 is A.J. Brown not being there and the uncertainty at wide receiver. I'm talking about from a national perspective, why we're getting all of these 8.6 wins or second place to the Colts. Very, very cynical as to whether they'll get back to the playoffs. I think there's doubt on Tannehill, and I think the next one would be, if you're really paying attention, the question on the offensive line. But you generally have a surface look, and from afar, it's skepticism on Henry, skepticism on Tannehill, and no A.J. Brown. I think those are the real three reasons why the Colts are getting all the picks.
615-737-1025. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonKenneyHoney.com. Brandon wants to weigh in. Brandon, welcome in.
Hey, guys, I agree with Willie about the three things that that people are struggling with the Titans, and I think if you're a real Titans fan, that none of that really should surprise you. I think I would disagree with Willie. I think Tannehill will be the number one reason people are down on the Titans. Nobody last year would have expected the Titans to come up with the number one seed, and Tannehill was the reason why then. You lose A.J. Brown, his best receiver, and then you still, the last time all of us seen Tannehill, it's surprising he didn't play in the preseason, but the last time we saw him, he threw 3 interceptions in the biggest game of his life. So I think it's pretty spot on when it comes to the national perspective. I don't agree with it per se, but I can definitely understand it. And who knows? Tannehill struggles in week one. The Malik Willis train is really going to be, pretty strong here in Nashville. So that's all I got to say.
Brandon, real quick, why does Tannehill get so much non-benefit of the doubt and Matt Ryan does?
Because, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think people don't ever think Tannehill was ever very good. I think everything that he has done as a Titan has been credited to Derrick Henry and the rise of Derrick Henry. Very little, and I mean, us in Tennessee who know the team can push back on that. But nationally speaking, the people, all of Tannehill had a really, really good year 2 seasons ago, and he didn't even make the Pro Bowl because people thought it was, Derrick Henry. So those are my thoughts on it.
Awesome. Thanks for the call, Brandon.
It's good.
Appreciate
it's a good take. Do you feel that too? Most of what I'm reading, hearing, there is an optimism on Matt Ryan, despite his age, despite changing addresses. There is a level of optimism that's much higher on him than there is on Tannehill. Fair?
Yes, I think that's totally fair. And I think a lot of that has to do with resume more than anything. Matt Ryan's resume is a former MVP, and he's really not that far removed from playing at that high level. He's looked rejuvenated in training camp, and this is where the praise for Frank Reich comes in, the fact that he's with Frank Reich. And just I think that's where Frank Reich gets a lot of credit because he's a quarterback and he speaks that language, and what he's done developing quarterbacks as a coach. I think he can find that fountain of youth for Matt Ryan, or people think that he can find that fountain of youth for Matt Ryan. And then they look here, and here's one thing, and I'm going to ask Tim about this. We have hardly talked about Tim Kelly at all in training camp. Since
that surprises me a little bit because
it does me too, because it was a big deal when the news came out that he was going to be the passing game coordinator. But since then, nothing has really come up. And so what does that exactly mean for the Titans offense? Tim Hasselbeck's going to join us coming up next here on Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, the beach is just the beginning. Because here, there's so much more to explore. So let's paddle, and maybe even parasail. Let's hit the trails, the coffee shops, the quaint boutiques, and craft breweries. And then let's indulge in some fresh seafood with a sea view. From the Gulf Coast to the Bay, there's something for every taste and every interest. So let's make the most of every sun-drenched minute, and let's shine. Start planning your next escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game set. Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace with Chase McCabe, Willie Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
You know that theme. There we go. It's back. Welcome back in. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick here with you. Every Tuesday at noon, we talk to ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselback, and he is brought to you by BetUS.com. Cash in on all your favorite sign up at BetUS.com. Use promo code 1025 for up to 200% sign-on bonus. Tim, how you doing?
Doing great. Good to be back on with you guys.
Something that we were just talking about with, the Titans and Colts, and we've gone through this with you. We know your prediction of you think the Colts are going to win the division, and I believe a lot of the naysayers look at the quarterback position. You've brought that up with Matt Ryan with the Colts, and then Ryan Tannehill here with the Tennessee Titans. But something that I don't think has really been brought up. Do you believe that the Titans bringing in Tim Kelly, the former offensive coordinator with the Texans, knows Mike Vrabel, they've brought him in to be the passing game coordinator. How big of a difference, if any, can that make for Tannehill in this offense this year?
Listen, I think it can make a huge difference. I'm a fan of his as a coach. I don't know him personally, but, obviously he had connections with Bill O'Brien. He stayed on that staff last year in Houston, and with Davis Mills, what he accomplished as a very inexperienced player, I think it was impossible to not be impressed with some of the things that they did. So I do think it's important. It's always hard to really know, the amount of influence that a coach can have, who ultimately is designing the game plan, installing the game plan, coaching it up during the week, calling the plays on Sunday, having influence over what plays get called, in certain situations in a game. So it's hard to really, really know that stuff. But, assuming that, he was brought in for a reason and brought in to have, a legitimate influence on it, I think it's a really good thing.
So what do you think? It looks like Malik Willis is going to be the backup for this team this year. Do you like that move of going ahead and just putting him in that position? Do you think that's going to help him develop?
I do, because, when you're the backup, as much as people kind of talk about it being the best job in the world, like, you are one snap away. I mean, it's, one collarbone from being in, one, knee getting rolled up on or anything like that. And so, for a young player to understand the magnitude of that, the significance of, like, hey, you're ready, I think is better than saying, all right, look, now you're 2 snaps away. Like, it just feels so much further from reality when that's the case. And I think that it's easier to get distracted by other things. And not to say that he would, but I do think that if you're the backup, you do get some reps, especially if the starter, is on schedule to start that week, but maybe is, got sore ribs from the week before and misses, a Wednesday practice. Well, now you get those. And so I think that type of stuff is important for a young player in their development. So, and then if he's the backup, Chase, quite honestly, if they did want to have something in the plan for him as a runner, either, taking Ryan off the field or keeping Ryan on the field and sneaking Malik in for whatever reason, you never have to be concerned about, all right, well, are we thin in the secondary that we're activating a third quarterback for that week? Or, if he's the backup, he's active every week.
So, okay, you bring that up. I would love to see a scenario where they put him in at quarterback and they line Tannehill out wide. Tannehill was a wide receiver. I know they're not going to actually throw to him. And so do you think that any type of decoy play like that would work, or are defensive coordinators just too smart for that?
I think there are ways to have both guys on the field at the same time and have them be legitimate threats. Now, I think that, Ryan's days of playing wide receiver at A&M have long gone by. Not that he, can't still run or things like that, but a lot of money invested into him. And so to have him, doing things out on the perimeter where, he essentially forfeits some of the protections you get from inside the pocket while you're playing quarterback, I don't think are wise. But I guess what I would say is that Malik, Malik could have value in terms of, things that you could do with him playing outside of like the traditional quarterback position. I'm not saying you major in something like that. I just like to kind of give you an example. Like I remember a time that my brother had in Seattle, like Seneca Wallace was the number 2 quarterback. I mean, he caught a slant and go in a playoff game. And, they had some stuff in the plan where, look, there was a double pass for Seneca Wallace. So I'm not, and Seneca wasn't being, coached or developed as some type of utility player. I mean, he was being coached and developed as a traditional quarterback. It just happened to have some ability that they felt like could be useful in games that matter. So, look, I don't think that something like that, a little piece of that, I don't think something like that would stunt, Malik Willis's, development as a quarterback. I also don't think it's a good idea based on the identity of the offense to try to major in that type of thing.
Interesting stuff. Tim Hasselbeck is with Seneca Wallace, by the way. That's a great name, blast from the past right there. As we all get older, we're getting further away from the Seneca Wallaces and things like that. It becomes fun to bring those names back. But, Tim, that really has been my question, is if Malik Willis is that immediate second guy, a little bit unexpectedly. I don't think anybody really was, putting him down in pen to be at this stage, but he has shown a lot of improvement. But to me, the long term is the bigger thing with him, right? You don't want to stunt that growth at all. So what are the important things for him, and what do the coaches do, right, to keep working on the long-term things and still have him ready to go in at a moment's notice?
Yeah, well, I think, as the backup and you're putting the plan in each week, and a lot of it is going to be tailored around, the offense that they have and Ryan being the quarterback. Look, you practice those things, right? So in an individual periods, and then watching it, and then watching Ryan get coached, and like this really, like just play it out and say that Ryan Tannehill starts every game and plays well, and they make it to the postseason. You're talking about 20 weeks or so now where, Malik is going to be in an environment where he's not running around, playing, in like live football environments. What he's doing is he's repping things in the structure of an offense, playing from inside the pocket. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of work doing that type of stuff. And his ability to be elusive as a runner isn't going to, leave him in that time. And so you think like that if he gets better as a passer, then, you see him play next preseason, it might look like, oh, wow, like this doesn't look like a guy who's just eager to leave the pocket and start running. Looks like a guy that has total command from inside the pocket and looks really impressive when he does decide to take off and run.
Where is he compared to maybe where you thought he would be? I know you did your homework on him coming out of the draft. So based on what your expectation level was, where is he at the end of this camp?
I think because of the volume of work that he got in the preseason. I mean, he played a lot in the preseason. And I think because of that, I think he's in a good spot. I think he's probably in a better spot than I thought it would be. If you'd have asked me coming into training camp if I thought that he would for sure, be the number 2 quarterback, I wouldn't say that I thought that would be the case. I definitely think it's the right decision based on seeing him play. And it's funny that the college game, guys, I have this weekend is Louisville at Syracuse. And so yesterday I actually watched the Liberty-Syracuse game. I had remembered watching Malik come out, and Syracuse actually did a really good job on him. Syracuse actually won that game. Watching that game against a bad college team, a team that's picked last in their division in the ACC, and then watching the way that he was effective as a runner, some of the big throws down the field that he made, just his general awareness of playing the position. I think it's probably fair to say he played better this preseason on a whole than I thought that he would.
I want to ask you, switching gears on the Jimmy G saga that's going on. I think all of us kind of thought that the perfect scenario would be he would find a new home somewhere, but it's like his stock has dropped so much. And so how is this going to work? They clearly are committed to Trey Lance, but I feel there's a different feel, right, when there's a guy like that who is proven, who started so many games for that team, and he's just sitting there on the team. How is that going to work? And I'll bring a flashback to you. I can remember when your brother, Matt Hasselbeck, was the number 1 quarterback for the Titans, and they had Jake Locker. And then the following year, part of the reason they may have moved on from Matt Hasselbeck is they didn't want him sitting there because he had started all the games the year before, and they didn't want Jake Locker to look over his shoulder. So they switched the backup quarterback, and he moved up to Indianapolis.
Well, I can tell you that part of that conversation was, look, we drafted this kid in the first round. We're looking around the league. We see Christian Ponder starting games, and we feel like Jake Locker should be starting games. And Matthew's like, what does Christian Ponder have to do with me starting games?
Yeah.
Wow. There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, we're bringing them all up. Jay Fiedler's coming in the next block. Look, I think that, it totally changes the dynamic with a young player who I know is going to have growing pains. Here's the thing people need. Trey Lance, I want to say he has started, let me think about this. I want to think he started like 14 games since leaving high school or something crazy like that.
Wow.
He's not played a lot of football, guys. And so the reality is that he's going to make mistakes. He's a young player. So I think that having somebody that is a proven good player who's going to be healthy because he's not playing, sitting behind him, I think it's going to make it harder for Trey Lance. So, the relationship between guys really matters. I can't imagine that Jimmy Garoppolo feels great about how he's been treated there. I've always felt like that's been one of the more underreported situations. Here's a guy that, views himself as a starter. He's played at a starter level. He's taken a team to a Super Bowl, and they're moving him along for a player that is a developmental prospect, not somebody that's proved that he can play. And I think the only reason that this has worked out the way that it has is that because of his shoulder surgery, the starting spots dried up, and when they dried up, the compensation that would be necessary to move a player of his caliber just wasn't there anymore. And so I think that the Niners ultimately ended up looking at it and saying, "Look, because of the money that we have allocated at the position, because we have a rookie quarterback or a quarterback on a rookie contract, it's not prohibitive for us to keep Jimmy Garoppolo."
So with that said, Tim Hasselbeck is with us. Who has the second-year quarterback that's going to take the biggest step forward between Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance? Who do you think it'll be?
Well, I mean, I think it'll be Trevor Lawrence, because I think things are going to be so much better down there. I believe that you're going to see a ton of move-the-pocket stuff for Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville. And one of the things about him, if you ever stand around him, you realize how big he is. I mean, he's gigantic. But he throws really well on the move. He's excellent on the move. And if you look at some of these teams, like the Niners would be one of them, like these teams that do a good job with move-the-pocket plays, with simple progression reads, I think you're going to see a lot of that in Jacksonville, and I think Trevor's going to do a really good job with it.
All right, we will see what the 53-man rosters around the league look like. Tim, have fun this weekend calling a game. You said you had Syracuse and Louisville?
Louisville at Syracuse, yep. I mean, how'd you guys like my FAMU-UNC game? I know you were dialed in.
You know I was.
We were worried that the game wasn't going to go off. Remember, there was the academic. What was going on there?
I was in Mac Brown's office when that happened. Literally, they were talking about who could we get here to play if these guys can't play. Like, that was real. Also, like, low-key, Jeremy Musa, the Vanderbilt transfer,
yeah,
he played amazing.
I always wondered about him. So for people that don't know, this guy was on the Vanderbilt roster. He is quarterbacking Florida A&M. So you're saying he played well?
He played outstanding. In fact, I had him in the game for a long time. Like, he played like Drake May. Everyone's all excited about Drake May at North Carolina now, and rightfully so. He had a great game, but Jeremy Musa played about as well as Drake May played.
Yeah, Carolina's an interesting one, and they have been since Matt got there, or got back, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So listen, man. I mean, this has been great to start the football. Watch, Trent and Lipscomb Academy put it on Thompson on Friday night. Had a game Saturday night.
Yeah.
We're just whetting the appetite now, boys. Let's go.
Were you flipping around between Trent Dilfer's Lipscomb Academy team and the Commodores out in Hawaii, who are now 1-0 after the 63-10 domination?
Right. Hey, listen, which makes, Clark Lee's comment about being the best team in the county, something to talk about now.
Timmy, great stuff as always. That's a walk-off. We'll do it again next week.
See you, boys.
So I guess to retain that title, maybe they have to play Lipscomb Academy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the candidates. Yeah,
I think so. That is Tim Hasselbeck, brought to you by BetUS.com. Cash in on all your favorites. Sign up at BetUS.com. Just use the promo code 1025 for up to 200% sign-on bonus. We'll react to some of those things, plus my 53-man roster. We'll go through it. Coming up next, 1025, 1063 The Game. But first, Willie, tell us about Loan Pronto.
Okay, let's talk Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto right now has the ability for you to get your hands on some cash to attack and do the things that you need to do. I've actually been working with Loan Pronto for this very thing. We've got some things going on. We've got a daughter in college, and we are doing some financial things. We called up Loan Pronto. We've been hearing these ads. I've been telling you about Loan Pronto, so I'm now a client of Loan Pronto. They've done fantastic work for us, and they can for you as well. Loan Pronto, the principle is if you're a homeowner, your home's value is very valuable right now. And they can take some of that cash that you're sitting on and put it to use, whether it be for a college tuition, a simple refi, or if you want to reinvest in your home, they can do that for you. Maybe you just got some other simple high-interest loans that you want to pay down. It could be something as simple as that, or maybe you need a down payment for a new home. All of these things are available to you. You do what you want with the money, but Loan Pronto has the ability to get you the lowest rate, no matter what your goal is. And not all lender mortgages are created equal. Loan Pronto is known for being one of the low-rate leaders out there. It's an all-digital process as well. Super fast, virtually zero paperwork, and no hassle. I can certainly attest to that. So do it now and find out how Loan Pronto can help you. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. FanDuel wants you to be ready for game day when college football kicks off this week. Right now, new customers can get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week 1. Just place a $5 bet and you can get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Tons of great bets out there like a same-game parlay or jump into the action with live betting. You can bet with big promotions like odds boosted or go for it all with the National Championship Futures. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the perfect time to give it a shot. The app is easy to use and they're always hooking you up with great odds, and when you win, you'll get paid fast. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with the promo code JGM to place a $5 bet to get $150 in free bets guaranteed. That's promo code JGM. 21 and older in President Tennessee. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues, non-withdrawable free bets expire 14 days after receipt and restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at TriStar Skyline offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Dickerson Road location specialize in general orthopedics, arthroscopic surgery for general orthopedics and sports medicine, hip, knee, and shoulder, as well as hand, wrist, and elbow trauma. They offer same-day appointments, too, so you can get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment now at tn.houston.com. Conveniently located at the TriStar Skyline Medical Center in Nashville. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
Jim Jeffries.
Here's the thing about millennials.
Live on stage.
You're the worst people that have ever lived.
Saturday, October 8th at Ryman Auditorium. Tickets on sale now at AXS.com. Produced by Outback Presents.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way. I'm watching a game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cuts.
Back here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you. D-Mace with the day off. He'll be back on Friday. Nick Keyser on the ones and twos as well. What did you just play? I didn't hear that. Willie was talking to me. Sorry. You had some. You're laughing.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cuts.
Ah, there you go. Homer Simpson. Very good. Okay, well done. Well done. Sorry I missed that. So there you go. Homer Simpson making the cuts. It is time for my 53-man roster. I know Joe Rexroad did his from the Athletic. We'll take a little bit of time on this, but when I did this a few weeks ago, I had them carrying 3 quarterbacks. I had Logan Woodside still as the backup for this team, and if there's been some reported cuts that I have these guys in my roster, please tell me because I did this.
Remember, we have challenged Connor and Nick back there to keep the eagle eyes open for any particular cuts. So as of now, right, we have not seen any other things seep out from the Titans' way, even though there's been a bunch around the league. Fair to say?
Yeah,
yes.
We've not seen anything really. So what we've given y'all so far is what we've seen.
And I'm actually a little surprised. I thought that you would have a couple that would have kind of floated out there by now.
Yeah, me too. But that has not been the case. But for quarterback, I do have.
So this actually works out well for you for your predictions because now you can
Yeah, because there's a few positions that I had like an extra guy that I've now put at another position group.
Okay.
So with the Titans 53, Chase is 53. I have Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. Those are your two quarterbacks. I do believe that they're going to try their best to get Logan Woodside to the practice squad, or they will find another quarterback to put on the practice squad. But I think on the active roster, it will be those two. Running backs, I initially had 5 total, including the fullback. I now have 4 total, including the fullback. Henry, Hilliard, Haskins, your 3 halfbacks, and then Carter as the fullback.
Okay.
I think Trenton – a lot of people had Trenton Cannon making the roster, and I initially had that as well, but he hasn't done anything. I mean, to me, he was supposed to be a special teams guy, could be a return guy. He just hasn't really done it. He's been banged up some, so – I just don't see a spot for him because he hasn't been able to show what he can do.
And I'm guessing you see Chestnut as a possible practice squad guy.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. I mean, there's a chance he could make it, but I right now have 4 running backs total. Wide receivers, Woods, Burks, NWI, Phillips, McMath, and I still have Cody Hollister edging out Des Fitzpatrick. I
think
I defer to Derek
part ways
on this.
To a lot from quite a few people on that one. I think he's a little bit of an underdog.
Yeah, I do too. And I had Fitzpatrick on my initial 53, but I'm going Hollister just because they know him. I think they're comfortable with him. And Fitzpatrick had too many opportunities to catch the football in the last game, especially. He's made some drops. He's had some key drops, and that concerns me.
Kinsey, you believe will be available for practice squad, or do you think he'll get picked up?
I think he'll get picked up.
You do,
but I mean, there's no reason. I like Mason Kinsey a lot. There's no reason to keep him and Phillips. They're the same guy. So okay. I just don't see. I don't see a spot. But no, I think there's a team out there that.
But the number is 5. You have 5.
6.
You're keeping the 6th.
Yeah, Woods, Burks, NWI,
okay.
Phillips, McMath, Hollister.
Okay, so this is important to note because if you keep 6 there, you got to,
yeah, but I've also dropped a running back. I've dropped a quarterback, so okay. I've moved some pieces around.
All right.
Tight end, I'm going 3, even though I would not be shocked, Michael Pruitt, if they added a 4th through the waiver wire and then moved something elsewhere. But it's Hooper, Chikakonkwo, Jeff Swaim right now.
Okay, this is where I'm going to challenge you a little bit is the number of sets that they run 2 tight ends traditionally. Usually you need 4 tight ends on your roster to pull that off. Now, again, the last few years, the ability to stash guys on your practice squad because of COVID, and you still have a version of that this year, it makes it a little easier to keep the 4th guy on the practice squad. So maybe that's the way to go.
I think Tommy Hudson could easily make the practice squad. But like Corey Curtis was saying earlier, you would take Michael Pruitt over Tommy Hudson. You might even take Michael Pruitt over Jeff Swaim.
But remember, I got to see Michael Pruitt post-injury here. It was a pretty nasty injury, as we all remember.
Yeah.
Instantly ended his season. He knew right then and there that was it. So presuming he's himself, then you know what he brings. I love Michael Pruitt. I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
I just think somewhere in here you're going to need 4 tight ends. I think on game day there's going to be some games where you want 4 tight ends in there.
Yeah. Coming up next, the offensive line, and you will not want to miss this. We will discuss my 53-man Titans roster, the offensive line. That's all coming up next. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The back-hander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, Hey Nashville, it's Jared, and there's a new go-to for home furnishing.
The summer clearance sale at Social Furniture, where all furniture is reduced in every department. Designer sofas from $5.99 and leather sofas from $7.99. Queen bedroom sets with queen bed, dresser, and mirror from $11.99. They come in solid, cherry, oak, and gray. Casual 5-piece dining room sets starting at $3.99, and formal dining sets starting at $5.99. Sealy, Stearns & Foster, Simmons, Serta, and Purple Mattress, all sizes on sale.
Social Furniture on the west side is independently home-owned furniture store in Nashville. Forget the big box stores. Shop local, shop social. They have all the best brand mattresses, sofas, recliners, love seats, sectionals, coffee tables, and more with no waiting. They will deliver it the same day. That's with everything at Social Furniture. Enjoy new furniture now with no waiting. Shop local, shop social. 5412 Charlotte Avenue near White Bridge Road, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you.
In 1972, a Nashville family business story began when Bill and Beverly Finley founded Volunteer Hose and Gasket. 3 generations have grown the business into the local industry leader, supplying just about anything to anybody, from the largest of contractors to your neighbor that mows his own yard. Over 1 million items in stock: belts, belting accessories, gaskets, gauges, hose fittings, hydraulics, industrial hoses, lubricants, sealing products, tubing, fire protection, and more, all at volunteerhose.net. If Volunteer Hose and Gasket doesn't have it, then you probably don't need it. Call them at 615-242-0461.
This September, the Chainsmokers hit Music City at the Blended Wine and Music Festival. 24 bands, 2 stages, 1 weekend, all under the Nashville skyline. Performances by the Chainsmokers, Loud Luxury, Sick Kick, Fetty Wap, Breland, and more. September 10th and 11th, the ultimate social experience drops in Music City. Enjoy a massive 100-foot wine tent, culinary village, and wellness lounge. Get tickets now at blendedfestival.com.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the next generation of drivers, where titanium ends and the carbon age begins. Introducing the new Stealth Carbon Wood driver from TaylorMade, with 60 layers of carbon twist face technology designed for better energy transfer and faster ball speeds. Come into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, or shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Listen to Stillman and Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets, courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN. Welcome into Chase, Willie, and D-Mace.
Stillman and Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Jordan Rogers, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
Thank you, Jordan. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you. Nick Keyser, intern Connor behind the glass. Going through my 53-man roster for the Tennessee Titans as cuts are happening around the league. All rosters must be at 53 by 3 o'clock today. We'll also have our first chat with Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee coming up at 1:30. Mitch Light before that at 1. That's our new Tuesday schedule with those two. But
so it's Light before Lee. The Light will head to Lee. Last year it was Light after Lee.
Yeah, well, we'll
just
work
a little flip-flop in the batting order, that's all.
Yeah, so we'll do that coming up in a little bit. All right, so I went through most of the offense except for the offensive line.
Yes.
And I did that on purpose because, I wanted some anticipation when it came to this. So the offensive line, I went with 9. I have 9 offensive linemen.
You have 9, okay.
Okay, 9 times.
Is there a guy in there that could play the third tight end in a particular set, I wonder? That's another way around the 3 or 4 tight ends, because you're only keeping 3 tight ends.
Yep.
Right, for people that missed the last segment.
So
and you're going 6 wide receivers.
So here are the offensive linemen that I have for the team. Lawan, Brewer, Ben Jones, Davis, Petit Frere.
Those are your starting 5.
That's a starting 5. 4 reserves. Corey Levin, Daly that they just acquired.
Dennis Daly.
Jamarco Jones.
You're keeping him.
And
you're keeping the man.
And I am not keeping him.
Oh, you're cutting Dylan Radins.
Yep, Roos. Roos is the other one.
You're keeping Roos.
I'm keeping Roos.
Michael Roos is making a comeback?
Michael Roos, the Rooster. No, that's Jordan Roos.
Jordan Roos.
Couldn't remember. I wrote the last names and then I couldn't remember the first name.
Give me Roos.
Jordan Roos.
Michael Roos comes in ready to play.
Rooster's ready. No, I am cutting Dylan Radins. I
So
think the
done.
move.
You're just done.
I think the move for Dennis Daly, to me, signified the end of Dylan Radins.
And so you're keeping Jamarco Jones, so you're seeing something there. You're seeing.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm
he's
really
sort of an X factor that we don't really know much about, but they've got to have something there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they look at him as he's a viable backup, and they're just gonna let him get healthy and hang on to him.
So Roos and Levin over Radins.
Yep,
and you're moving on.
I'm moving on.
Okay.
So 9 offensive linemen, which I think is a good number. Your 5 starters and your 4 reserves. It doesn't mean that they couldn't try and put Radins on the practice squad, but I don't have him on my 53-man roster. So
okay,
there you go. Defensive line: Simmons, Autry, Tart, Naquan Jones, Walker.
Okay.
I feel like that's pretty easy.
Well, they've got some other guys in there though that I like the depth there. I think I'm trying to think of some of the other guys.
No Murchison. I didn't have Murchison.
See, well, there's one right there. So that's one.
DeMarcus Walker is a veteran though that they brought in, 6 years in the league. Murchison's been okay. He's been a good depth guy. But I have Walker over him.
I think there will be a guy, and I think Murchison's the most likely. If they move on from him, they'll get picked up. I think they have a lot of NFL players at that position.
I do too. I think they're in really good shape at that position. But I went 5 defensive linemen,
and we're talking about just the 3 up front, right?
Yeah.
Not including the outside linebackers.
Yeah, I'm about to get to them.
Yeah.
Outside linebacker: Landry, Dupree, Weaver, Ola Daney, and then I hope I'm saying his last name right, David Anai, who has had a really nice training camp.
Showed up in a lot of the games, played a lot, and I thought did well. And
I saw Rexroad had him too.
Weaver was outstanding.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see what he brings this season because he could end up being very, very important.
Yeah. So I went pretty.
But that other kid, Anini, is that his name? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Anini. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I honestly, he caught my attention. I didn't know much about him, but I was wondering, so do you need 5 at that, or could you get by with 4?
The thing is, I think Anini has shown them enough that they want to see how he develops. Ola Daney is like your solid special teams guy.
Sure. But I think he's reliable as a guy in the rotation, or could come in and do okay. Is Anini quicker, better? Is he an upgrade there? If you're just looking at that spot, like a pass rush specialist guy.
Sure. But we know how much Vrabel, loves special teams. So
yep. You gotta have that.
All right, inside linebacker, and note this, that Monty Rice is starting the year on PUP.
Sure.
So he does not count as a spot. David Long Jr., Zach Cunningham, Jack Gibbons, Chance Campbell, Joe Jones.
So Joe Jones makes it.
I have Joe Jones making it.
I love Joe Jones.
I do too.
I think he's great. Now, he's right on the bubble.
I think he and Gibbons, it could be one of the two. It may not be both of them.
Okay.
But I have him making it. Defensive backs. All right. This is where it really gets interesting. Fulton, Molden, Farley, McCreary, and then Ugo Amadi, Chris Jackson, who are kind of swing guys.
Okay.
Byard, Hooker, A.J. Moore, Theo Jackson, Lonnie Johnson. And I think Lonnie Johnson is right on the bubble.
Okay. And so right there, you're still good at 53.
Yep, including the 3 specialists, which are Bullock, Stonehouse, and Cox.
Okay.
The long snapper.
All right, so who are you of the group? So Sammy Kalu would be cut?
Josh Kalu.
Josh Kalu, sorry.
Yep, Josh Kalu.
Sammy Kalu. Is there a Sammy Kalu?
Probably
Josh
played
Kalu.
utility for the Red Sox.
Yeah, probably somewhere in there.
Yeah, Josh Kalu, I don't have making it. Greg Maben, I don't have making it.
Maben's another guy that I think if he's around, you would be happy to go pick up. You just need those guys.
Murchison, I didn't have making it. A lot of these were on defense.
Okay, I'm just looking to set up my list of guys I'd like to have around.
Dylan Cole, I didn't have making it, which he's somebody I'd probably want to try and keep.
Right, guys who have played games before for the team. Who else are we looking at there? Is there another DB? I feel like there's another corner there. No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Certainly you would like to have Woodside.
Yep. Running backs too, whether it's Chestnut or Cannon.
Chestnut for sure. I'm just trying to put together a little makeshift practice squad here in a perfect world.
It's already reported they're going to cut Colbert. He could be somebody that you try and bring back on the practice squad. I don't know if he's really going to.
If they do the Radens thing, do they keep him on the practice squad?
Maybe. Now, here's another offensive lineman that I had on the bubble and ultimately out, Jalen McKenzie. I think Jalen McKenzie, the tackle, he's had a really nice camp. He could be somebody they try and hang on to. But he's more of an outside. Tommy Hudson.
Hudson, insurance policy. All these guys, it's like
Kinsey.
It's almost an advantage to the team if the guy is good enough to play for you in a particular spot in a pinch, but not good enough to get picked up by another team. That's that fine line. So it's like you got to decide who is unattractive to the rest of the league almost. Who could work but that could work for you. They seem to have they had 91 players last year, so they had a lot of guys who fit that category that somehow got them by.
Right. And so, those guys are important. I think more so than ever because of how the rosters are set up, it's important more so than ever to have those, guy 54, 55, huge. 56, 57. You have 16 practice squad spots now. You can use some veterans on the practice squad, which I think is big. You have some protects, things like that. So, I think it's not just the 53 because you have those game day call-ups too that you can use to get to 55. So even though a guy may not be on the 53, it doesn't mean he's not going to help you at some point in time.
Definitely. Okay.
So that's my 53.
I'm okay with your 53. I'm okay with it.
You'd roll that out there and go for it.
Yeah, I don't think I have any major challenges. I think if there were one thing, I think the Titans are going to need more often than not 4 tight ends. So do you want to risk having your 4th best tight end eligible to get snapped up by another team if he's on the practice squad? What would hurt more? Somebody snapping up your 4th tight end or somebody snapping up your 6th wide receiver, for example?
Probably the tight end,
or your 9th offensive lineman, or your all of these other guys.
Well, to me, like if they wanted to keep the 4th tight end, whether it's Hudson or they add somebody, that's probably going to hurt like a Lonnie Johnson or either Gibbons or Joe Jones out of the linebacker room.
It's just my theory that they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets with Petit Frere. It's what they do anyway, and with the Petit Frere factor and maybe you're a little thin on the offensive line, I think a little more beef. There's just a lot of reasons why the 2 tight ends are going to be important, which means you need depth there. You got to feel good about 4, I think.
Mm-hmm. Coming up next, could this be the last year for Ryan Tannehill? There's a prominent national morning show that discussed this earlier. You'll want to hear this. Coming up next, Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback.
185!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
How that team is built, I think there's a lot to like about them.
Every Tuesday at noon, Tim with Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Presented by Red Spirit and Wine in Bellevue on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center, On Fox 17 Code Red, meteorologist Greg Bobus. Morning temperatures in the 70s. Scattered showers and storms weakening throughout this morning into the afternoon. Will dry out after lunchtime. Humidity decreasing as well. High temperatures for today in the upper 80s to near 90.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Tired of living with chronic joint pain from arthritis or injury? Stop with the steroids and pain meds and don't have surgery until you check out regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics.
These therapies can help the body have long-term relief of your pain.
Meet Dr. Justin Garzone, Medical Director at QC Kinetics.
We use your body's own healing properties, highly concentrate them, and then use that to restore and repair the damaged tissues in your joints.
This is a cutting-edge natural solution from local medical professionals.
We have a team of medical assistants, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and physicians that are trained specifically just to do regenerative medicine.
And Dr. Garzone speaks from personal experience. Before joining the QC Kinetics team, he was an actual patient.
I am now pain-free.
You too can get lasting relief from joint pain. Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month. And inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it that you can access with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off those 23% rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut $800 or more from their monthly budget. If your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto now and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
How long does it take to tackle a home project? With Angie, you could cross it off your list before this ad is over. Just tell us what you need, indoor or outdoor, repair or redesign, and we handle the rest, sending a top pro to get it done. You don't have to lift a finger, except to tap the screen or click the mouse. Plus, Angie is free to use. So bring us your next home project, and we'll bring it home. Download the app or go to Angie.com. That's ANGI.com to get started.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year.
Joe Rexrode.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll talk to Mitch Light here in a few minutes, get his thoughts on the upcoming Week 1 college football season. You can also watch us live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Also, Clark Lee coming up at 1:30, Vanderbilt football coach. But earlier today on ESPN Radio, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max were discussing specifically the Tennessee Titans, and with the quarterback, it appears that they're going to have 2 quarterbacks in Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. They all thought about, could this be the final year of Ryan Tannehill? And I thought this was very, very interesting. Adam, we'll get to you here in just a few minutes, so hang on for us. But take a listen to this, Willie, because they all had the same answer.
I think he will be on the QB carousel because I think much like Jay said, they're going to win the division. I think Indianapolis wins the division. Tennessee doesn't look like the Tennessee of the last several years, and they move on from him because of salary cap numbers, and they also drafted Malik Willis that they feel like could be the heir apparent to Ryan Tannehill.
Key, I'm with you on this one, the salary cap numbers for Ryan Tannehill. And at the end of the day, when you look at Ryan Tannehill, I think he's a serviceable quarterback He's not a quarterback that gets you over the hump with the talent that they have, especially when you think about Derrick Henry, not wasting the years you have with an elite running back like that. Ryan Tannehill is serviceable, but he's not that quarterback that gets you to the next level.
He'll be on the carousel because if you're Ryan Tannehill's pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you're at that level, boy, when the playoffs come around, if your team is ready, you can't choke. You have to at least stay on your normal level, if not elevate it. Dude choked. Like, there's no other way to say it. He wasn't good. And so he has one more shot, and he's got to be lights out in the playoffs. If he doesn't do that, he's gone. And my prediction is, I hate to say it, but he won't, and he'll be gone.
There you go. So Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max all saying that they believe Ryan Tannehill will be gone after this year. And, you know, we've talked about the Alex Smith comparisons, that the Chiefs moved on from Alex Smith. They went to Patrick Mahomes, even though Alex Smith was still a serviceable quarterback, and it turned out to be the right decision. You know, if Malik Willis continues to take the steps forward like we've seen throughout training camp, then maybe that's what's going to happen here. But I think it also, Willie, depends on how far this team goes and how far Ryan Tannehill carries them for them to evaluate that and see what happens.
Yeah, I think anybody who is saying they know one way or the other, as they sit here today, they don't know. But everything's riding on this year for Ryan Tannehill. For example, I was looking at Spot Rack yesterday. They have a rookie backup quarterback, or if they somehow do decide to keep Woodside, which is not what really any of us think is going to happen at this point, they have a backup quarterback making the league minimum, and yet they still have more money invested in the top two quarterbacks in terms of the cap hit this year of any team, just because Tannehill's number is so high this year, 38.6. He's taking up 18% of the cap. Now, that was by design. They set it up this year so that next year they could make the decision on Tannehill one way or the other. So if Tannehill does really well, then they could keep Tannehill next year. And his cap figure is not nearly as high. I don't think. Well, maybe I'm looking at that wrong. It actually does look like it's pretty high next year, but they can get out of it much easier. So it's an obvious fork in the road, the way they've set it up for his contract. And I was surprised that none of those guys said that this year. They made it more about Derrick Henry, the playoffs, the thing. I mean, that's obvious stuff, right? It's very simple.
Well,
with all that stuff, but I think the contract is really the key thing. And then how do they feel about next year? Do they want the veteran, or are they ready to move to Malik Willis, or are they ready for let's just look for option C that may not cost as much? We can get the same level of quarterback play and use the other money to address the rest of the roster. They'll have a lot of crossroads after this year, but we knew that was going to be the case. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry's is no different.
That's what I was going to say. Because
huge contract decision after this year.
Because hypothetically, they could go one of two ways, really. Well, one of three, but hypothetically, they could move on from both of them. They could say that, hey, you know what? It's been great, but that window's closed. Let's go ahead and reset. We have a young receiving core. We'll turn the ball over to Malik Willis. You have Hassan Haskins that you just drafted, and also the running back position, you can fill that, and you go ahead and you reset, and then you see what you have and what you can build around with a young core. Or it's good enough, let's say they get back to the AFC Championship game, but they don't make it to the Super Bowl, and they decide, let's go for it one more time. And Henry's looked good. And Tannehill didn't. It wasn't Tannehill necessarily that lost it for you, and you were missing a few pieces.
They're taking a big mouthful on Tannehill with the cap hit this year. As I look at it, next year with Tannehill, he's still sitting at 36.6 for his cap hit. I think if you wanted to keep him, then you would probably have to restructure that and push it down.
Which is he willing to do, because he's already done that.
Well, there's something in it for him. He gets a lot more money up front. He gets the guaranteed money that way, and there's a little bit more of opening for the following year. So I don't know. It's a big decision after this year for Tannehill as it is for Henry. I think you should wrap your arms around the possibility that they would move on from both of them next year, which is crazy to say, but there's if you did a big pie, a pizza pie, you slice this, one of them's back, another slice is the other one's back.
Yeah.
One slice is they're both back, and then one slice they're both gone. The slice of they're both gone is a significant size slice.
Sure. And here's the other thing that to consider that isn't as likely, but still consider it. What if they just bomb out this year? Like they're just this team is bad. Well, all of a sudden that puts them in a really good position to potentially even draft another quarterback because this quarterback class is going to be stronger than last year's. And then they really do. They just say, all right, reset. That's what we're doing. It's time now, and we'll rebuild, and we'll see how quickly they can do that. But I think there's a lot of what ifs, but they also in some ways have options.
But I don't think you're sitting – if that happened, if they were looking for a new quarterback, new running back, I don't know that they would just be totally bombing out or bottoming out.
Yeah.
Because of what we've been talking about, that they've been trying to systematically infuse the roster with young players who they can build around. Bud Dupree is another contract that I think after this year is a big decision that they have to make.
I'll give you another one that Ben just brought up on our text line. Byard could be. I mean, look, Byard, that's not cheap. So, I mean, at some point, you're going to have to decide if you want to keep Tannehill and you want to keep Henry, you're not going to be able to keep everybody else.
Yeah, and let's throw Lewan in there too. These are all guys, but I'm thinking more Tannehill. The three biggest to me: Tannehill, Henry, Dupree.
Yeah,
because those three guys make a big chunk. I just don't. I think Byard will still be a guy that the next few years you're going to want to have on your roster.
Real quick news out of Tampa Bay: the Bucs are releasing Logan Ryan, veteran defensive back. He is not subject to waivers, so there's a good chance he'll be back on the 53-man roster after they make some IR moves. But we'll know this in a couple of days. Ari Miroff reporting that. Let's go real quick to Adam on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, welcome in.
Hey, Chase, I liked your 53, man.
Thank you.
I'm curious, though, man. So I just get to thinking, and I know you guys think I'm crazy for this. My head gets swirling. So what if Radence, because I like cutting him too, but what if he goes somewhere and balls out? I feel like I ask this all the time. Like, I don't see any of our linemen that are just studs, man. Ben Jones was good when he got here. If you're going to trade for rotational pieces, why not actually trade for one that we've heard of before that actually plays good ball, trade a better pick, trade Kern to the Colts for, Dennis Kelly. I don't care. Get creative. But I feel like we haven't gotten better on the line. So it's either J-Rob brings in sucky players or Keith Carter can't coach these players. There's no way we just keep missing this much, man. I get so frustrated with the line because I feel like everybody's overlooking obvious things.
Okay. That's an interesting take. Thanks, Adam. One thing to also mention, the Dolphins are releasing Sony Michel. So I think that may have come out late yesterday, but just saw that earlier.
I wonder where he ends up. That's a guy,
It's an interesting one.
845 yards last year. Doesn't like the word on fire, but that's, played for a winning team.
Mm-hmm.
3 years in New England. Couple of
I don't think he's a bad back. I mean, he's not a feature back.
And he's still young enough to where
sure.
you figure, he's not going to be falling off the cliff health-wise.
Yeah,
I feel like he could. I don't know what the contractual part of this is, but I feel like you could get a pretty solid guy there.
Coming up next, we'll talk some college football. Mitch Light from The Athletic will join us for his weekly visit. Also, Clark Lee coming up at 1:30. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Down, Middle Tennessee! 3-ball, yes, sir!
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown!
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford South. We all know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. So with that in mind, we're discounting all of our white vehicles. Well, maybe we should just discount the lighter colors that are close to white too and maybe the red and blue ones since we celebrate this in America. Okay, fine. I'll discount all the cars, starting right now. On top of that, we want to celebrate all of your hard work with the most American lunch we can think of. Hot dogs. Hot dogs all day on Labor Day. So come kick your feet up, get a new car of any color, and enjoy a hot dog. You can even shop online for a new car with Newton FastPass. But you'll have to make your own hot dogs that way. Sorry. Visit NewtonFortSouth.com to learn more.
Hey, what's up? It's Chase McCabe here to tell you about my drink of the summertime. You know it, Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Screwball is the first and most awarded peanut butter whiskey in the world, and it's an original, just like me, the suit. I take Screwball as a shot, but it's great on the rocks in an old-fashioned, an espresso martini, and many other recipes. So next time you're out and about, ask for Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2022 Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace with Chase McCabe, Willie Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
1 o'clock hour, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick with you. D-Mace with the day off. He'll be back on Fridays. He takes his son back to school. We say hello to Mitch Light from The Athletic. He joins us now. Clark Lee coming up at the bottom of the hour. Mitch, how you doing?
I'm good, Chase. Hope you're doing well.
Doing fantastic. Week 0 is in the books. I will save Vanderbilt for Willie. But look, my biggest takeaway, and I'm not firing a guy after 1 week, but Scott Frost, things are very frosty right now for him in Nebraska after they lose to Northwestern in Ireland.
Is that an original Chase?
No,
things are frosty for Scott Frost.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone's ever used that before.
I think it's been used a few times, I'm sure.
Okay, so maybe don't get a shirt. It's
yes.
probably trademark. But, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. It was as pivotal of a week 0 game that I can remember, in recent years, just because of the stakes. Like, we've had other coaches on the hot seat, but maybe playing an inferior opponent, and say obviously you can't lose that game. But as far as just a competitive game against the team that they should beat, they think they should beat, that they dominated last year, the way they opened up, throwing the ball all over the place, they looked great in the first half. Just a devastating loss, just because the way they lost, too. The same script as last year, losing close games. So, yeah, I mean, it's a long season. We can sit here, Chase, and say, oh, he's done, whatever. But, those guys, they have to use the cliche, circle the wagons, and there still is time to kind of turn that thing around. But that was not a good opener. And imagine how long that plane ride must have been for that team.
Oh, no doubt about it. Tennessee will kick off their season Thursday night, hosting Ball State. I've been seeing pictures of Neyland Stadium after some of the renovations that have been done, so they'll be there for that. Tennessee, a huge favorite, 35-point favorite. Brew McCoy has been ruled eligible, which I think is big for them and that offense. But what are some things you want to see as Josh Heupel takes steps forward in year 2?
Yeah, I mean, just sort of taking care of business. You don't want it's a very good question, a fair question, but like you can say, let's say they struggle. Let's say it's 21-10 at the half and they win 35-17. They don't look great. I mean, does that mean that things aren't going well? No, it doesn't. But I think big picture, you want to take care of business. This is a Ball State team that has had some success, especially offensively. They've got a good coach, Tony New. That's his alma mater. They've had some good quarterbacks there in the past, but they're picked towards the bottom of the MAC West, so it's a team, by the point spread that Tennessee should handle with ease. So, yeah, you just want to see them kind of I want to say to take that next step because the level of competition, just take care of business. 28-3 at the half and win going away and not have Hendon Hooker in the game in the fourth quarter would be, probably the perfect plan for Tennessee.
Talking to Mitch Light. So, Mitch, let's ask a question about Vanderbilt. You're level-headed. You know the history here. Not to get too high or too low, but what is your assessment of
So you have not
Hawaii?
made non-refundable hotel tickets for Atlanta for the SEC?
I haven't done that. I just, I can get out of it if I made the reservation, but I can still get out of it without paying.
Okay.
But I think back, they got whipped by East Tennessee State at home last year in the first game, so you got to start there, right? They look much more, well-oiled, cohesive, all of that from a year ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and we don't know how good or bad Hawaii is going to be. We probably think they're not going to be very good. It was a team that was, I think, 6-7 last year, but maybe had more upheaval in the offseason than any program in the country as far as losing players. So, I think they're really going to struggle on defense. But, credit Vanderbilt for taking care of business. But people look back at the ETSU game, and rightfully so. But when people ask me, kind of comparing, the one I look is UConn last year, which was more mid-season. UConn was probably the worst team in the country last year, FBS. They did not win a game against another FBS team, and Vanderbilt beat them at home on a walk-off field goal. I wouldn't say they're fortunate. They earned it. They marched down and scored. So if you're looking for a comparison, that's the one. So even if you're going to say Hawaii might be one of the worst teams in the country, Vanderbilt just ran them off the field, and I clearly did not expect Vanderbilt to win dominate that thoroughly. I thought that they could control the line of scrimmage and run and establish themselves and their athleticism. I thought Aaron Taylor on the broadcast kept bringing this up. What really stood out was Vanderbilt's athleticism at some of the skill positions, and I thought Vanderbilt hit really hard on defense. I was really impressed with that. And, you can sit here and say the ball bounced their way. Sometimes it did. They did lose a couple fumbles and they had some turnovers that they ran in for easy touchdowns. Okay, let's say the ball doesn't bounce their way and they win 42-10, or 42-17. Still a very thorough and impressive win. So we don't know yet, Willie. We'll find out more in the coming weeks, but clearly very impressive and showing, that this program at least has made some steps forward in the offseason.
What do we know about Elon?
Not too much. I did a little Elon research today just because I was curious. The CAA, Colonials, usually one of the better FCS leagues. I think they went 5-3 in the league last year. They got a fourth-year coach. So, it's not – I don't think they're a ranked FCS opponent. One thing last year, not to make excuses, but, East Tennessee State ended up having a really good team. I think they might have made the semis or maybe the quarters of the FCS. So, at the time, it seemed like an even worse loss. I don't think Elon is close to what ETSU was last year. But honestly, I don't know too much about the Phoenix, I believe is their nickname.
I believe that's correct.
A former producer of ours went there.
Oh, yeah, I know a few people that went to Elon. One of the ones I'm intrigued about this coming weekend, Mitch, as we look at a full slate here, Utah at Florida. Give me your insights on, Billy Napier. What an interesting game to start a career.
It is such an interesting game. It's such a barometer game. And, for years and years, college football has been a regional game, and we talk about conference supremacy and all that, and so much is made of it, and we just, there's not, the sample sizes are so small in these non-conference games. I always use that 3 years ago, 3 years ago. Do you remember the Oregon-Auburn game and the Bo Nix debut? It's Bo Nix throws a probably ill-advised pass at the goal line that Auburn catches and scores a touchdown. So based on that one play, SEC's awesome, the Pac-12 stinks. It's just because
right.
which is, kind of true, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We talk about narrative all the time on this show. I don't care what sport you're talking about, but there's a narrative that starts with something like that.
Exactly. It's not like there's 10 Pac-12 SEC games every year. Like in basketball, there's those challenges. That's just one game. This is sort of it, but it's even because of what's going on with realignment, expansion, TV deals coming up. It's a huge game for the Pac-12. Utah is pretty much the consensus pick to win the Pac-12. They won it last year. You got a lot of guys coming back. And Florida is, by all accounts, a middle-tier SEC team right now. Now, it's an upper-level program, but they're a middle-tier team. So just think, if you're the Pac-12 and you go out in the opener and your best team on paper loses to a middle-tier team, that's not good. And the other way around, for the SEC, they can really pound their chest if they win. But specifically to this game, I think I like Utah. I mean, they've got Tavion Thomas is a really, really good running back. The quarterback Rising is started at Texas. I believe he's a fifth-year senior. So I just think it's a very physical team. I don't think they'll be intimidated by going out there. You know, people have mentioned the weather, sure, but it's a 7 o'clock game. It's not like a noon game or anything like that. So there's, Georgia, Oregon, there's great games all weekend, but I think to me this is the most intriguing game of the weekend.
Talking to Mitch Light of The Athletic. So there were two teams that are actually playing each other this week that were kind of the sweethearts of college football last year. Cincinnati obviously goes to the playoff. Arkansas really shows big steps in the SEC. Do you think that those two teams can continue where they left off, or have they lost too much and are going to go back the other way?
Another good barometer game, Chase. I'm interested in Arkansas. They've been getting a lot of off-season buzz, and everyone loves Sam Pittman, and rightfully so. The KJ Jefferson's back, which is good news, but they did lose a lot. So to me, I know we're here in SEC country, but to me, Cincinnati's a more intriguing game. And I love this game. It's kind of a weird game, but I'm glad they're playing. Not saying if they lose this game, they're doomed and they're going to go to the Big 12 and stink, but if they lost a lot of talent. And I've read a lot of Cincinnati stuff this year. We've got a really good Cincinnati writer in Justin Williams. And the theme is sort of like culture, sort of like almost at Utah, similar culture, program, next man up. We lost these veterans, but we got this next tier guys who've been in the program, and they got a new quarterback. So, if they can sustain that level, not that level because they were a playoff team, if they can be a top 25 team again with all those losses, I think that really bodes well for their impending move to the Big 12 next year. So I would expect Arkansas to win, but, Luke Fickell has built a really good program with staying power there, so another really intriguing game.
So Marcus Freeman is going to ease into him taking over as head coach is Notre Dame by taking on Ohio State. So that's a good one for sure. And that's at the Horseshoe, I believe, in Columbus. So obviously a big game. Ohio State, some people are picking to win it all, make the playoff again. But what do you think we're going to learn about Notre Dame going into this one? Ohio State, a heavy, heavy favorite.
I don't think we're going to learn a lot because I think Ohio State's going to win comfortably, and I don't think there's any shame in losing to Ohio State on the road by a significant margin. I think people will overreact. If Ohio State wins this game, 41-17, people are going to go crazy, like Notre Dame overrated, all this stuff. Well, there's three great teams in college football. At least that's what we think on paper this year. And then there's kind of a drop off. If you lose at Ohio State, who's clearly, on paper, the number 2 team in the country. Some people might think they're the best team in the country. That doesn't mean you can't have a good season. It might not mean you're not a playoff team. So I think Ohio State's going to roll. I love their offense. Their receiving core is as good as I've seen in, put it this way, Chase. They lost 2 first-round picks from the receiving core, and they probably still have the best receiving core in the country. That tells you how well that quarterback room is stocked there. Now, the big key is obviously their defense, which was bad last year. They bring in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State, very well-respected defensive coordinator. How quickly can he get those guys playing well? They've got more talent than they showed. They've got some really good young defensive linemen. If they can get after the quarterback, Tyler Buckner, first-time starter, but, sophomore at Notre Dame. If they can make life difficult for him, I think the Buckeyes really roll in this one.
Okay, so you feel pretty good about the Buckeyes. Is it safe to say you think maybe Oregon would have a better shot of competing against Georgia than Notre Dame against Ohio State?
Yes, I do. Oregon, I like their talent level. I'm concerned / scared because I know it's a new coaching staff, but they built Mario Cristobal recruited like an SEC program, from inside out, sort of from the lines. They recruited well in the lines. They tried to be really physical and build their team that way. They played Utah twice. They got manhandled twice last year. So that's my concern from an Oregon standpoint, is handling Georgia's physicality on the line of scrimmage. They're good. They're good skill players. Although they're Travis Dye, their number 1 running back, rushed for 1,000 yards last year, is now at USC, but they've got good depth there. So I like Georgia in this game, but I probably do like Oregon. If I had to pick one of these upsets, it'd be Oregon over Georgia more than Notre Dame over Ohio State.
Well, I'm just glad it's all here, and we'll have even more games to talk about next week. Mitch, thanks so much as always. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
All right. Take care, guys. See ya.
Mitch Light of The Athletic. He's going to join us every Tuesday at 1. Clark Lee coming up at the bottom of the hour, Vanderbilt football coach. I want to know Clark Lee. We will talk to him.
We're gonna learn more about the Phoenix.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But coming up next, we have our trivia question of the day and Willie's 3 fantasy questions.
Oh, yes.
To look at as well.
Anticipated segment. This is going to be good.
Yes, that is
Cutting
all next.
edge.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
He looks like 1,000 MAC-level quarterbacks I've seen in a college game.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
The coaching staff kept him and got rid of the other guys.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
If he's so great in the locker room, then give him a coaching gig.
Chad Withrow is presented by Regal Realty Group on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and FanDuel wants you to be ready for game day when college football kicks off this week. Right now, new customers can get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week 1. Just place a $5 bet, and you can get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Lots of interesting college football props out there. I'm looking at the Vols over 7.5 wins this year, but you take it any way you want to take it. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the perfect time to give it a shot. The app is easy to use, and they're always hooking you up with great odds as well. So see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app today, sign up with promo code ROB, and place a $5 bet to get $150 in free bets guaranteed to kick off the college football season. Once again, that promo code is ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Save big this Labor Day at Electronic Express. Get a Samsung 65-inch 4K TV for only $599 or an LG laundry pair for $599 each. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department: computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't miss out on a Microsoft Surface Pro 8 bundle for just $899 or an Xbox Series S bundle for only $379. Shop in-store or online with up to 36 months free financing. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home's value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it, and you can access it with Loan Pronto. They specialize in zero-cost cash-out home refis. Get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. And yes, VA loans are eligible. With a VA loan, you can access up to 100% of your home's value. So pay off high-rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut about $800 or more from their monthly budget. So if your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Golfers, tee it up this year at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Callaway. Featuring the new Rogue ST drivers, Callaway's most stable driver ever, with tungsten speed cartridge, jailbreak speed frame, and AI flash face. Engineered for max speed and forgiveness. 4 different models to fit every golfer's needs. Think speed? Go Rogue. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit for the new Rogue ST drivers today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I'm ready to step this up a notch. You're listening to Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Back here, Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick here with you. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, coming up at the bottom of the hour. But first, we have to get our trivia question of the day.
We do have to get the trivia question, but I got to ask a question to the rookie back there. I know that there were less channels back when I was growing up, but you do realize there was more than one TV show on back then besides Magnum PI,
yes,
right?
I do.
He just likes it.
But look, this is something that Joe Dubin instilled in me, and it is fantastic.
Let me explain what's happening right now. Because I know this, because I have sat in that spot before.
Yes,
Nick,
which I have not.
Nick is a very, very talented rookie producer.
He's up for Rookie of the Year.
He is leading Rookie of the Year right now. There's no doubt. He's done a fantastic job joining us. But like a lot of producers, once you kind of find your footing and you find things that you like, those are your go-tos. But it's a small group, and so you keep going back to it.
Yes, absolutely. And have you noticed what song I play to end our show coming back from our last break? I play Wild Things walkout music every single show.
And that he's putting his stamp on things, and I appreciate
He's putting
that.
the stamp on, yes. Magnum PI is a big part of the stamp.
I love Magnum PI, though. The Major League theme,
it's a really good Game Blitz tease, too, for Friday.
Exactly. The Game Blitz is coming up Friday. That'll be fun.
I just want to make sure he knows that, in the dark ages, even though I don't have a Fire Stick and all these things, there was more than one show on besides Magnum PI. The Jeffersons. There's some other good TV themes back then, too.
Right?
We can shake it up.
You're not wrong. All right, ask the question.
Okay, question is, I'm thinking with the Giants coming in, let's have a little Giants-Titans trivia question. Back in the day, it is the only Titans game I ever left early. The Titans were down 21-0 to the Giants. It's one of the more memorable games, and unfortunately, the season didn't end up quite ending magical. But the Titans had a horrible start to the season. 2006, they inserted Vince Young into the lineup. He had a great run. They finished 8-8. Wasn't enough to make the playoffs. But they did have a great win against the Giants in which they trailed 21-0 at the end of the third quarter. I left the end of the third quarter. I didn't leave at halftime. It was, fourth quarter. I'm like, I'm going to
So this was when?
2006.
Okay. The last time they played the Giants, you were asking this during the break, was 2018. It was at New York. The Titans won 17-0.
So have they played in Nashville since the 2006? They haven't.
Well, I don't know.
I think they played more than one.
Yeah, they've probably
there.
played. They probably played since 2006.
I feel like they have. Okay, but this is the one that's memorable. Here's the trivia question today. There was a Giants running back from Auburn that scored 2 rushing touchdowns that helped the Giants build the 21-0 lead. Can you name this running back? Giants running back from Auburn, who scored 2 rushing touchdowns to put the Giants up 21-0 to set the stage for a great comeback. Both escaped from Vince Young with 9:35 left. Vince Young, 1-yard run with 5:24 left to get them within 7. Then, of course, the crazy drive in which Matthias Kiwanuka had him in the grasp. He sort of let him go. And Vince Young runs for the first down. They move the ball down the field. And then, of all people, Brandon Jones catches the tying touchdown with 44 seconds left. They get it back and kick the game-winning field goal with Rob Baronis. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, was it a Pac-Man Jones interception that set it up?
It sounds right.
Just a miraculous comeback.
The Giants played at Nissan Stadium in 2014, defeated the Titans 36-7 in a 2-14 year for Ken Wisenhunt.
We've forgotten about a lot of those games. That was one of them. I cannot honestly tell you anything about that game.
I don't remember that game.
I think I was at that game. So do we have a winner? I didn't think it would take very long. 737-1025.
Still fielding some
we're
callers.
still fielding calls. A running back from Auburn, from the Giants, scored 2 touchdowns.
So the Titans have played the Giants 3 times since 2006.
Okay. I did not mention the prize. Is the prize the same as yesterday?
I didn't mention the prize either because
it is still the same prize as yesterday.
I got it.
Just wanted to make sure.
Well, thank you, Nick. 2 tickets, 2-day passes, I should say, to the Blended Festival. A pair of 2-day passes at the Bicentennial Mall on Saturday, September 10th.
All right, at the Bicentennial. 737-1025. Still wrong answers so far?
No, we just got a winner.
Got the winner. Okay. The answer? The big fella, Brandon Jacobs.
Brandon Jacobs.
Remember the tremendous stable of running backs that Tommy Tuberville had at Auburn in the early 2000s. Remember they had the undefeated season, which they were left out of the finals. They had Brandon Jacobs, they had Cadillac Williams, and I'm trying to think of the third guy. They had 3 absolute studs back there, and I'm forgetting the third one. Remember they declared themselves they didn't declare themselves, but Golf Digest voted them the national champion.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing.
That.
Number 1 in Golf Digest. But Brandon Jacobs, I watched him play against Vanderbilt a couple of years before he became a pro, and what a beast physically. Just there's big running backs. Like, he had sort of Derrick Henry kind of build, right? He wasn't not nearly as fast, but he was a guy that was very, very nimble for the size, but just the power that he used to run with.
Rashad Jennings, is that the one you were thinking?
Is that right? 2003 Auburn? That doesn't sound right. Ronnie
Brown.
That's it. Ronnie Brown.
The Wildcat.
Yeah, the Wildcat game for the Dolphins against the Patriots.
Started. Ronnie Brown was kind of the one that all started with.
So Ronnie Brown, Brandon Jacobs, and Cadillac Williams. Imagine having those 3 guys.
Yeah,
playing running back.
A lot of votes for Ronnie Brown.
They absolutely blasted Vanderbilt and Jay Cutler, and it was actually the weekend that Gordon Gee announced that Todd Turner was out and that they were eliminating the athletic director position and eliminating, sort of, so to speak, the athletic program. The whole intramurals thing, just a total debacle from a PR standpoint. It didn't turn out to be doomsday as everybody thought, but that was quite an interesting situation to go to a football game that weekend with all of the crazy what does this mean kind of stuff, and Auburn just throttled Vanderbilt that weekend. I feared for the health of a lot of Vanderbilt players with Brandon Jacobs running down on like kickoffs and carrying the ball. He was really good.
So very good trivia question. We will do a trivia question every day, usually at 1:30, but since we have Clark Lee, we moved it to 1:15. But in the 1 o'clock hour, there will be something we do every day on the show. For years you guys did trivia, and would do it for an hour. We'll do a trivia question every day for you to win a prize. You're going to have time for maybe one fantasy question before we get to Clark Lee.
Let's do one fantasy question today, and that is this. Look, the drafts are coming up, and so I'm just going to hit you with an either or. And I don't know if anybody actually knows where their draft, but some people are probably sitting there right now knowing what pick they have in the first round. Some leagues do that. They tell you where you're going to pick. I'm just going to tell you, Chase, in theory, you have the choice of these 2 wide receivers. This appears to be sort of the consensus. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. You want to pick a wide receiver with the first-round pick. Let's just say you have pick number 4. Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp.
That's a tough one.
This is an important decision. Like, you probably can't go wrong at the end of the day, but who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson.
You would go with Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
You just think Cooper Kupp can't possibly do what he did last
honestly,
year?
that's what I think.
Okay.
And I think he's going to regress a little bit. Maybe regress to normal, but,
Still really good, but maybe not. And right now I'm looking at the average draft position. It is really tight between those 2 guys right in there. And do you like both of those guys more than you like Jamar Chase?
No. I like Jamar Chase.
So you might actually consider taking Jamar Chase before those guys.
Yeah, because I like his quarterback a lot too.
Okay.
More than the other 2.
Nick, agree, disagree?
I do disagree. And actually, Kupp went first last night.
Oh, that's right. You actually had a draft.
Right.
D-Mace had the first pick. He went with Jonathan Taylor.
Correct.
Overall, right?
Yes.
So how did it fall? Do you remember in the first round which wide receiver went first in the
draft? I was trying to find it really quick because I got an email this morning that kind of did it play-by-play for us. But I do know that Kupp went ahead of Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
And in my opinion, I see Kupp getting more targets and having more success this season. If it was me, like last night, I didn't get the chance to pick him, but I think he's pretty fantastic. So I would have gone with him, honestly.
All right. Clark Lee is calling right now, so let's go ahead. And coming up next, we will talk to Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee. He will join us here on Chase Willie and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
This is Mikhail Kralland, and this is Nashville.
And the rebound shoveled in by Mikhail Granlund, and the Predators have tied it up on the power play.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025, The Game.
Some people were made to follow the instructions. We were made to make our own, to always measure twice and never cut corners. Unless, of course, we've got a compound miter saw. Northern Tool and Equipment is a problem solver's paradise. There's nothing we can't find, fix, or figure out together. We're made for this. Start solving your projects today at northerntool.com.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Tune in to the Wednesday edition of Robbie and Rex Road. We'll be joined by Paul Kaharski from paulkaharski.com and Outkick 360 to get his thoughts on the 53-man roster for the Titans. Also take a look at the Vols 1 day away from their opening game against Ball State. Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
This is Greg McElroy, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Chase McKay, Willie Donick here with you. Derek Mason with the day off. We head over to West End, say hello to Clark Lee, the football coach at Vanderbilt, coming off that 63-10 win over Hawaii. Coach, how you doing? Don't hear him.
Sorry, you guys got me now?
There he is, Coach.
There he is.
Gotcha. How you doing?
I'm doing great now that I got the mute button off. We're all set.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. Congratulations on going to Hawaii, number one. I mean, not a bad place to start the season, but your club goes in there and gets the job done. A tremendous third quarter, especially for you. But what did you think overall about your team's performance?
Well, first of all, it's a great place to vacation. I'm not sure that I'd ever care to go back for a game. That was a challenge in and of itself. But, hey, I was proud of the way the guys played. I mean, I thought we battled some adversity early. I thought we played to an identity, and, we were able to come out and handle business. We had I think we made some breaks in the game, and that allowed us to kind of distance ourselves there in the third quarter. But that's not to say that was luck. I think we were playing in a manner that generated opportunities, and we were able to take advantage of those opportunities. And now, we get a chance to face the adversity of success, right? And recognizing that, that game is finished and behind us, doesn't define us. We have to take the learning from it and move forward and learn how to replicate performance. I mean, that's a challenge in and of itself, and so that's what we're facing this week.
Mike Wright had over 300 yards of total offense, whether it's with his legs or through the air, and 4 touchdowns total. I mean, just a tremendous performance for him. Since you got there and took over as head coach to now watching him grow, what have you seen?
Well, like you would imagine from, Mike presents in a manner that you forget sometimes that he's young. I mean, he's had to mature a lot, mature as a player, mature as a leader. He's obviously we feel like sharpened his skills as a quarterback. Talked a lot a year ago about his need to strengthen the other 10 positions on the field, and I think he's shown proven the ability he can do that. And obviously we know he's a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands and can be a differentiator for us. And, he was able to, do that early in the game and do it often. And I was happy for him. And the thing that I know about Mike is that, he's not reading his press clippings. He's refocused himself and found ways that he can improve. And there are plenty of those. And I'll be excited for him to go at it again this Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Talking to Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach. So as you've gone through now your second training camp, you start the year off 1-0. What do you see from your team from a confidence standpoint that maybe you had to build upon as you and your coaching staff put in your philosophy and your system?
Well, confidence is a funny thing. It can be fickle, and it has to be earned. You have to put the work in, to really authentically be confident in performance. I believe that that we showed that, and I guess I would say that on Saturday that we played like tethered to a belief in what's possible, a belief in what we're building. And so when we did face the early adversity, though I wouldn't have hoped for that adversity, I think in hindsight that you couldn't have designed the night better just because we needed the challenge, and the thing that I was impressed with is it was the belief in what we've done to this point, the confidence pulled from our preparation that created a situation where, our players didn't flinch. And I do feel like, for this program, we're still in the early phases of this build. And so, for us, confidence each week has to come from our willingness to start back over from the beginning and just default back to the routines that have delivered us success to this point, delivered us progress, I should say, to this point. And from that willingness just to zero out every week and keep going back to the basics, the fundamentals, the routines, I think we'll continue to build through the season and have a chance to find more winning results.
Talking to Coach Clark Lee. And Clark, before we ask you more about your team this year, you guys made the big announcement, the partnership with First Bank. And it looks like there's a lot more layers to this than, they're just putting their name on the stadium.
Yeah, it's a partnership, and we're excited about that. I mean, I think it's a great Nashville brand, and certainly, I've said this many times, but the mission one is for me to build a program that represents the excellence that our university represents, to sustain winning here, and to be an exciting ticket in Nashville. Mission two is to build inroads into the national community and really strengthen our Vanderbilt community. And I think this partnership is a manifestation of that. And I just want to credit Chancellor Dearmeyer and Candace Lee for their efforts in making this happen. And this is going to be something that doesn't just benefit us in our, game day digs, but also I think will benefit our student athletes just in terms of the relationship moving forward.
People ask this all the time. They've heard about the Vandy United. There's a lot of there's a lot of intangible things. It's a process that takes time. What are a couple of tangible things you could point out to where you've seen that directly help your team to this point?
Well, specific to Vandy United, I mean that's all division, right? So we have this construction project that's already started. It just hasn't started above the surface yet. But we've had I guess to say we've had some disruption because of it. We were out of our stadium
right
in fall camp because they had to pull up the north end zone and do some work underground to start construction on that side of the stadium. And then postseason here it'll be the south end zone, and we're going to be quickly kind of working in order here to get the facilities completely redone. So all of that stuff is exciting, and I think it's all packaged in the vision of what this is going to be. We have new turf down, which we desperately needed, but I think it is a reflection of a commitment to excellence here in the short term, to where we're not going to miss opportunities to make subtle improvements where we can. The thing that I've been most impressed with in all this, though, is being that we're, everything is temporary for us right now. So the office that I sit in as we speak, the meeting rooms, the weight room, the locker room, in short order, it's all going to be gone and rebuilt. Our administration hasn't said no to us once with respect to making small front of house changes that impact the experience of our players. And to me, it's a great. What you want to do is you want the narrative, the story that our team interacts with every day to be one of progress, and that certainly can come from being bigger, faster, stronger, which we are. It can come in being more comfortable with the manner in which we go about our daily schedules, et cetera. But I think certainly the physical signs of progress are important too. And so, when you walk in our spaces, when you spend time in our facilities, you're not going to experience an environment that feels temporary. You're going to experience an environment that feels first class. And then, to me, that just projects forward to excitement for what's to come. Because if we're able to do this in the spaces we're in now, imagine what this is going to look like, once we have best-in-class facilities in our conference.
One of the things that caught my attention on a piece that Joe Rexroad did was he was saying that, you sort of showed him the progress you guys were making behind the scenes, just in efficiency at practice and how you look and how that has maybe carried over onto the field. It had to feel good for you. So it's not just you guys get a much better result in week 1 or week 0 this year as opposed to last year in the opener against East Tennessee State. But there was a lot that went in behind that, and you could sort of see that progress behind the scenes.
Well, generally good things happen when me and Joe get around coffee and donuts. And so that was.
I'm sure he really appreciates hearing that. That's good.
Sometimes because progress is incremental, and again, we understand the path we're on. This isn't going to be something that happens overnight. And I think sometimes, look, I mean, when you talk about the results at Hawaii, you talk about a performance that I am really proud of. I think we represented this program the way this program is meant to be represented. And yet the challenge is replicating that. The challenge is sustaining it. And that's a real challenge. That takes time. That takes a level of maturity as a team and a program. You have to know how to win, and you have to, again, humble yourself each week. And so I hesitate to say, I guess the season begins at that first result, and it's our challenge to build upon that result. And what I know is inevitably this season we're going to face adversity. That's going to happen, and there are going to be challenges embedded, and we have to anticipate those, and we have to use those challenges to evolve us forward, similar to what we did a year ago. But just to specifically your statement, sometimes the success, the dramatic success that you want to see is evasive, and you have to remind yourself of where you were a year ago to really see the progress that you've made over time. And the exercise that Joe and I undertook was just and it was something I did in the spring. I went back a year ago and watched the same spring practice that we were currently in, and I was blown away with the progress. And that obviously again is bigger, faster, stronger, but and it's noticeable. But it's also chemistry. It's also just quarterback and receiver connection. It's also the attitude, the total effort we play with on defense. Those things were fleeting or non-existent a year ago. We were efforting it, but just weren't getting the results. I think now we've again solidified a lot of that within our foundation, and now we're trying to build out and build upon that to create a program that again represents the excellence that this university demands of us.
Big game coming up this weekend, as you mentioned, replicating success. You got the new turf. It's the home opener. Give us 1 minute on Elon, what we need to know.
They're a good team. They're a team that has a lot of snap experience. Very different challenge than Hawaii. Hawaii was a lot unknown, and in the end what you understood was they were going to have to build chemistry within the 4 quarters of their first game, from head coach to coordinator to the players. Elon will be different. They're going to be way more versed in their systems, way more experienced together. They're going to come out and be a collective force. And it's our job not to match that. It's our job to bring our highest level to them and put them in situations that challenge them and that test them. And, we're going to have a great week of prep to do that. And so I'm excited to be back at home. I'm excited to celebrate 100 years, in Vanderbilt Stadium and Dudley Field. And obviously with the partnership with First Bank, it's our first time to play under that banner too, and on new turf with the new V. It's a lot to get excited about, but our guys will be really juiced up to be back at home and to have a chance to compete in front of the home crowd.
Speaking of the new V, all thumbs up from everybody that I talked to with the uniforms. I thought everybody thought that they look great. For what that's worth.
I appreciate that.
Not that I'm the fashion police or fashion
That's
consultant.
worth a lot. That's worth a lot. No, I appreciate that.
Well, Coach, best of luck this weekend against Elon, and we look forward to our weekly chats with you once again. We'll do it again next week.
Hey, great to be with you guys. Y'all take care.
That is Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, as they will take on Elon this week, the home opener at First Bank Stadium. 4:30 p.m. coverage on 93.3 Classic Hits, our sister station, which is your home for Commodore football. And we will talk to Clark Lee every Tuesday at 1:30 here on the show. Coming up next, I'll run through my 53-man Titans roster one more time before we get out of here. Stillman and Company coming up at the top of the hour.
You want that on the record, don't you? You want to make sure that gets on the record.
Well,
your final 53. You feel pretty good about it.
I do. I do feel good about it.
See.
That's all next. Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Folks, Joe Rexford here, inviting you to be ready for game day when college football kicks off this week. Right now, new customers get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week one. Just place a $5 bet. You can get $150 in free bets, win or lose. You can go same-game parlay, live betting, all kinds of odds boosts. You can go national championship futures. I know this week the big game, Tennessee, Ball State. I would go ahead and give those points and go with the Vols. I think they're going to roll and put up a lot of points in that game. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the perfect time to give it a shot. See for yourself why it's America's #1 sportsbook. Download the app, sign up today with promo code Joe102. Place a $5 bet to get $150 in free bets guaranteed to kick off the football season. Again, the FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code Joe102. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbet.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
On Fox 17 Code Red, meteorologist Greg Popus. Morning temperatures in the 70s. Scattered showers and storms weakening throughout this morning into the afternoon. Will dry out after lunchtime. Humidity decreasing as well. High temperatures for today in the upper 80s to near 90.
Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Jared Stillman.
If you get 3 games where he doesn't turn the ball over, you're going to the Super Bowl.
Caroline Fenton.
I don't know if he would be open to joining another team.
Stillman and Company. Afternoons from 2 to 6.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willie, and D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Coming up at 2 o'clock at Stillman and Company. They'll have the latest on all the Titans cuts, and also Jared and Caroline will give their thoughts on Dennis Daly and what he brings to the Tennessee Titans. Appreciate Clark Lee for joining us. We were just talking about this during the break. I
should have asked him about it.
Because you referenced Brandon Jacobs, and Clark Lee would have been playing in that game.
Brandon Jacob was the answer to our trivia question today about the Titans-Giants game in 2006, where the Titans were down 21-0 against the G-Men at the end of 3, came back and won in a very memorable game, Vince Young, etc. And I was talking about Brandon Jacobs. When he played for Auburn, they had the 3 incredible tailbacks, Brandon Jacobs, Cadillac Williams, and Ronnie Brown. And I was referencing the game that I saw Auburn play at Vanderbilt in 2003. Jay Cutler was the quarterback for the Commodores, a young quarterback, but it was early Bobby Johnson. They they were short on talent, and it was the week that they announced that they were getting rid of the athletic director position, and they were putting the athletic program under the umbrella of the student body. It was very confusing, and everybody thought this meant the end of Vanderbilt athletics as we know it. But that weekend, Auburn came in. I should have asked Clark Lee because he was actually on that team. But I saw Brandon Jacobs go down on a back in the days where you had the old blocking wedge.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that anymore because they don't want as many collisions. But Brandon Jacobs lit a guy up. I hope it wasn't Coach Lee.
He might have been like, that was me.
It was probably somebody Coach Lee knew very well. But I was very worried for his safety at that point because I'd never seen a guy as big.
Were you on the sideline?
I was not on the sideline at the time. I did some games on CSS back then. I would do the play-by-play. Pat Sprudito and I often would do the games. There was 2 or 3 per season, some of the non-conference games. But that day I was just a fan. I brought Evie, my daughter, who was 1 year old at the time, and that was not a fun day for Vanderbilt.
No,
they got smoked.
It was not. I may have been at that game. I don't know. I remember 2008 playing Auburn, and that was better. That was much better.
2008 was that was the game.
That was game day.
Yeah,
yep. And I think they won that game.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I was at that game. That put Vanderbilt at 4-0 or 5-0. That's pretty exciting.
That's right. So good times there. All right.
You people are blocking the library. One of the greatest signs of all time.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Okay, my Titans 53-man roster. I'll just give some of the highlights. I do have them keeping just 2 quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. I went with 4 total running backs. That includes the fullback. So Henry, Hilliard, Haskins, Carter, the backs. 6 wide receivers. Fitzpatrick is out for me. Hollister is in. Phillips
so
and McMath.
6 wide receivers, and you went with 3 tight ends.
3 tight ends, a Hooper, Chig,
That
and
was
Swain.
my only difference with you. I challenge you. I believe they're going to need 4 tight ends.
I think you're probably going to be right.
Well, we'll see.
I just don't know if that 4th tight end is currently here.
And that could be something they adjust in the coming days.
I think they may have played here before. But
we're wondering about that. Michael Pruitt, sure.
So that could be possible. 9 offensive linemen. Dylan Radins is not one of them.
Okay.
I think with Dennis Daly being acquired yesterday, I think he takes the spot of Dylan Radins. I do have Jamarco Jones making the roster, even though we haven't really seen much of him. It could go a lot of different directions, but I don't have Dylan Radins making my 53.
Okay. We're going to find out soon enough. And with Stillman and company, they should be able to at least give you the final roster based on today.
Yes.
Of course, we know in the coming days with all these
3
guys
o'clock, we'll know the roster.
Yeah, throughout the day, we've been watching guys get cut who have significant time in the NFL. We'll see if the Titans like anybody like that. But, Chase, I do have to end the show on a fun.
Well, you going to let me finish?
Oh, I thought you were done.
That was the offense.
You mean there's more than just the offense in a football game? Okay, sorry.
Defense wins championship.
Yeah, I can't wait to throw this story because you
I
can
know.
relate.
I
can relate. I've been there. But give me the defense quick.
Defensive line, I'm going with 5. The guys that have basically been here, and then I've added Walker. Outside linebacker, Landry Dupree, Weaver, Adaney, and then how do you say his last name? David
Anini.
Yeah, I have him making it. Inside linebacker, David Long Jr., Cunningham, Chance Campbell, Jack Gibbons, Joe Jones, with Monty Rice on PUP. Defensive backs, loaded room there. Fulton, Molden, Farley, McCreary, Ugo Amadi, Chris Jackson, Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker, A.J. Moore, Theo Jackson, Lonnie Johnson, and then Randy Bullock, Stonehouse, and Morgan Cox, the long snapper.
So some notable guys on defense that you are letting go for the time being are Laurel Murchison, Josh Kalu, Greg Mabin.
Yep.
Who am I seeing there? Cole.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see if any of those guys end up back on the practice squad. How many guys might be attractive to other teams?
And look, I think there are a few that they're going to get picked up.
Okay, so
by
what's
other
your
teams.
what do you think margin for error here? As I'd like to not miss more than one on a good year when I've picked the field of 68 for the NCAA basketball tournament, which I'm hoping to be able to do again this year. So if I miss one, I can live with it. If I miss more than two, I'm really upset.
I feel good about
how many
the
you think
2
you're
to
going to
3,
miss?
the 2 to 3 range.
Yeah,
somewhere in there. I mean, Radence could go either way. They could have a fourth tight end in Hudson. And look, it's going to be hard to tell because even
Hollister
the 50
would be a bit of an upset.
Hollister,
right? And you've got him.
yeah, Hollister, the 53 man today, I think is going to look a lot different on Monday.
Right, and of course down the road, we hope a lot of these guys that are on the bubble don't end up being too much of the story once the season starts. So now, are you prepared for the story out of Milwaukee last night? Okay, so the Brewers are playing the Pirates. Now, the Brewers are in a dogfight trying to catch the Cardinals, and they're trying to stay in the wild card race. And they're behind 5-3 in the 8th inning. Meanwhile, they have a system, just like a lot of stadiums do, where you can put a message into the central Twitter or whatever that the team has, and they'll put it up on the scoreboard for you. Right? They can say, hey, shout out to Overton High School. We got a bunch of people tonight. Or, hey, great job by the Milwaukee, or, shout out to the Milwaukee Admirals. Good luck this season. You can put whatever you want up there.
Sure.
So somebody, unnamed, writes this message up on the board. Mark, your friendship means the world to me. Let's not wreck it.
Oh, no.
So I immediately thought of you, and look, I have been in the friend zone. Now, back in my day, they didn't have this method, right? They couldn't have put, but I just had to read between the lines, right? There were some friends that I really liked that I was hoping for more, and it just, the signals were such that it just, wouldn't happen. If they could have written a message like this. In fact, I did one time, my homecoming date, I really put it out there in a little secret letter. And I got the secret letter back, and it was like, let's just be friends. So I was seriously friends on it. So I've been there. I know you've been there. You joke about this.
I'm the mayor.
But have you ever had the message on the message board?
No. The closest thing I had to that is one time I was with a friend and got shown on the Megatron at a Preds game, and then Jeremy Gover decides to tweet it out, or he may have just texted to me and said the Bud Light friend zone. And that made me laugh.
The Bud Light friend zone. Okay. But the story doesn't end there. Okay, so MLB, the morning show that they have with Mark DeRosa and the crew.
Good show.
It's a funny show. They made this big to-do about,
The mayor is on that show.
Yes, absolutely. So what happens is Christian Yelich sees this, and he puts a tweet out. I don't know if he did it before or after the game or whatever, but he said, let's win one for Mark. And sure enough, they rally, and it's some of the Keston Hiura, who has spent a lot of time this summer playing for the Sounds, hits a home run. They tie it, and they go on and win the game.
Yeah.
So they won one for Mark, who got put in the friend zone. So his evening was not a total loss, even though I'm sure he was devastated to see that message got up on the board. So whoever the girl is, or the significant other, that he was hoping for more, put him in the friend zone. At least the Brewers rallied for victory, and he could go home with that consolation.
You know what? Give Mark a chance.
Give him a chance.
Give him a chance.
Give a chance.
Mark is probably the guy that you tell all your girlfriends that, like, I just want to find a guy like this. Mark's right there.
He's right there.
He's right there.
Now, the question is, this is what Lauren Shahada was speculating. Does it just mean that she's got somebody else?
Yeah.
Or she's just not satisfied enough? There's no spark with Mark.
I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't even know anymore. The Braves have claimed Jesse Chavez, so he joins the organization for the 8th time.
Is it 8 or is it more than 8?
I don't know.
It's close to double.
I don't know. Stillman and Company coming up next. They're live at First Horizon Park. They'll have all the cuts and all the analysis for you. We're back tomorrow, 10 o'clock, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.